Hey!
Hello, everybody!
Hello! I'm kind of rocking out to the Talking Heads right now. I always considered David Byrne like part of the Toaster tribe, like the Brave Little Toaster. It's like an inside joke, but I recently came out, as a lot of you know, as being high-functioning autistic. That's something that I'm going to talk about quite a bit here in this particular live stream. And I just want to preface this by saying thank you to everybody who's here, because this is a topic that I'm not necessarily very comfortable talking about, actually. It's one that I've been very reluctant to talk about at length. And I just wanted to thank you for being here. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to try to tackle this a little bit more in depth, even though it's still very much a work in progress. And to that end, I may need to take breaks periodically throughout this stream if I get a little overstimulated, because I do tend to get a little sensitive about this topic, though I still want to talk about it. I still want to open up about it. I still want us to be able to have a conversation about it. So I'm going to push through it. But if I do have to get up a couple times throughout the course of this live stream, please know it's nothing personal. Nigel's already prepared. He's ready to go. We've actually got a room set up already where I can just sit there in quiet for a couple minutes if I need to, and then come back. There's like more delicious tea sitting in there. This is not Earl Grey. What is this?
It's the London Fog.
I repurposed one of their lovely tins as used makeup brush holder. So it's this one. It's Victorian London Fog. It's very soothing, even though it's caffeinated. So it's kind of perfect. So we've got some of that sitting here and sitting in the other room. So I'm just going to take a moment to just sort of say hi to everybody. Nigel, you want to lead the charge with that?
All righty. Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
First person to sign in, Michelle Moffat. Hi, Mimo.
Hi! We're so happy you could join us from Scotland.
And thank you for your support.
Yes, that's wonderful of you. And you're also very good with makeup. Like, look at that profile image. That's like a sci-fi fantasy right there.
Sending hugs from rainy Scotland. It's pretty overcast and dingy here in Georgia, too, let me tell you. Who else we got? We've got Kat B.
Hi, Kat.
We've got Liz.
Hi, Liz. Hello. I see Kathleen is also in here, and Erin and Brenda. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, Kathleen.
Thank you for joining me and Nigel today and for hanging out with us here. Before I get started, you know me, I like to stall a little bit so people have an opportunity to log in, but I also want to talk a little bit about some of the tech stuff that we've been experimenting with, just in case any of you guys do live streams and you want to learn from our missteps. I'm happy to disclose all that stuff to you. So first of all, I'm gonna have to pause this for a second because this takes deep thought and I'm gonna get distracted if burning down the house plays again. So basically, little crash course here on the principal differences. I know my Spock tendencies are going to come out in full force here prematurely, but here we go. There are fundamental differences between, let's say, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and how they do live streaming. And I'm going to leave Twitter and Periscope out of this, but and LinkedIn, which are also options for this sort of thing, in addition to like Twitch. That's so far out of my depth. That is so beyond my realm of knowledge. So I'm just going to stick to the three that I work in, and that's Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So the principal differences and the strategy involved are all going to be a little bit different, I've discovered. And this may just be my perception based on the topic I tend to talk about. But I think with YouTube, the chat is more robust. I think that we get a lot more chat. It comes in a lot faster. The moderation is a little bit easier. I like the fact that you instantly get a replay that goes up on your channel. You just need to create a playlist that people can be directed to. I think that all of that is really cool, but it is kind of like limited reach, and just like a lot of features recently have become, and I think Liz was actually the first one who turned me on to this, because Nisha Warren mentioned this in one of her videos, and she was outraged, and she should have been, because it's pretty nuts. Like, YouTube does not actually like send notices to people in the same way anymore as it did when we started. So now we have to do a lot more legwork behind the scenes to tell people that we're doing stuff here on YouTube. It's almost like we're giving free advertising to Google and they don't need it. You know what I mean? So that's definitely how that feels. But the thing is, I think that as far as supporting like a community, I think that this is really a good platform for that, which is why we're going to keep trying to stick with YouTube. So if you were worried that I was going to not come on YouTube for the live streams, don't worry. We're still definitely doing that. And we're still definitely doing that on Saturdays as well. So for Facebook is intriguing because, and by the way, in case you're just joining us, hi everybody who's joining us. I'm basically just stalling for time a little bit, and I'm also rambling about the technical differences in the 3 platforms that I work in, which is basically Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like I've noticed some very real differences while running these experiments this week, and I wanted to share some of that just in case it's helpful for folks. So now everyone's caught up. I just talked about YouTube. So Facebook, it doesn't get as much reach. It doesn't get as much reach. Basically, people have to interact with our Moon Kitty group, or they have to interact with the CysterWigs group for that to be something that gets circulated broadly on the platform. So, you know, people who are already interacting with us, CysterWigs, and our Moon Kitty group on Facebook, they get the live stream feeds if they're logged into Facebook when we're doing this. And we do post it redundantly to Moon Kitty Mixup as well as in the main page. So that way, even if you're not in the group, you can still watch it on Facebook if that's your preferred platform. So, and by the way, as I'm rattling off all this nerd stuff, if you guys have any feedback you would like to give us in the chat about your experience in whatever platform that you happen to be watching this in, that'd be super helpful, because I actually asked my Patreon subscribers last night what they thought about how things were going. And so it was really cool that I got that feedback from some folks, because it gave me an opportunity to kind of check my own impressions up against everybody else's. So I think that Facebook is actually pretty easy for a lot of folks. We've had the least number of technical hiccups running in Facebook Live. And we can post redundantly to Facebook and YouTube, which is really lovely. We don't really get that capability with Instagram. Instagram, to my knowledge, does not allow you to multi-stream. Like, you have to be on Instagram, or you have to do what I did, which was literally buy a second phone just so I could have them both operating at the same time. And while that works, I don't think that, and this is Instagram that I'm talking about, I don't think that was really ideal, because like, imagine that this is like a line of text and how small this is. That's what the comments look like as they're scrolling by furiously on Instagram. And when you don't acknowledge them, people don't like that, right? So it's hard for me because the phone screen is like this far away. I've got my contacts in. I've got a bunch of blingy eye makeup on usually, and I can't see it. So that was kind of an issue. And the other thing is, because you can't multi-stream and you have to do it in portrait mode the whole time, it's hard to get both of us on the screen. It's hard to get the backdrop in the screen. I mean, there are just a whole bunch of limitations, but I still like the way YouTube and Facebook have performed better than Instagram, because on Instagram there are a lot more trolls. And I think that's just because Instagram, and it's very well known, is like basically they like to spread the notices around. So it'll show up, I guess, on people's discovery page if you're live, even if they're not following you. And so people that have never interacted with, the CysterWigs brand, who have never seen one of our images, could see some of these live streams, and it was obvious, because it got real weird for a little bit. I didn't really sweat it, and I don't even think the folks who are watching on YouTube and Facebook even knew that this was going on over on Instagram, because it wasn't until I finally was like, oh, we're not doing this again, that I even acknowledged it. But, trolls happen. And you probably saw from yesterday, like, when it happens, it's just best to everybody keep calm, know that some people just make a hobby of crashing the party. And, they feed off of you reacting to them. So if you don't react, usually the episode goes away a lot faster, and we're given the ability to moderate it. And by the way, that's another reason why we moved back to StreamYard. The moderation tools are a little bit more intuitive, and we found that was really important. So we're giving this another try on that end as well. I wanted to, Tammy left some great feedback about her experience on YouTube. I'm trying to push the button and
Sorry,
I think
I
you're
was trying to
fighting
do
me.
that for you.
Yeah, I could tell. I was like, stop it. Dueling producers yet again. Tammy said, adorable dog, by the way. Is that a Bichon? Excuse. I don't know, but whatever it is, he's cute. Okay, let's see. That is the automatic reflex. Whenever I see a cute, fluffy animal, I go into like baby voice. My apologies if that's annoying. When I came to Facebook, I had to search for the live stream. It used to just show up in my recommended list. I did get the link from Patreon. I also looked on Facebook and it wasn't up front in my feed either. Yeah, it's gotten very difficult for us to get the word out about the live streams. So that's why we're cross-platform streaming. I want to try to continue to do that because I want to make sure that whatever we do, it's for the sake of preserving the chat, because it was really the nuclear option yesterday that we had to disable the chat in YouTube, and it was really unfortunate. So again, remember with live streams, particularly midday live streams where kids are bored in school and they have nothing to do but to fire up Instagram and pretend like their teachers don't notice, like hide behind their backpacks and just troll people on live streams. Just know that's going to happen. And, you know, consider them part of the circus. They're part of the fun. They're one of the attractions, you know?
The caged virgins.
Oh, no comment here. Oh, man. I had to sip that tea because of the tea.
Yes.
All right. So, oh, Shannon, I just want to prove to you, your comments are coming through. Hey.
They're definitely coming through on the Facebook feed.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where sometimes, particularly when this is why another reason why I like to stall, because I can interact with you a little bit more. Once I actually get into the meat and potatoes of the makeup, particularly when it's a really intricate look like today, it's very hard for me to actually see the comments, particularly once, like today, we're going to be taping my eye. Like I'm going to be, I know that sounds really dramatic. It's makeup tape though. It comes off easily. But I'm going to be taping part of my eyelid. And so I'm not going to be able to see what's on screen. That's why I have my attractive co-host here.
Shades of a clockwork orange, Heather. Taping your eyes. It's a sin!
No!
Sorry. Had to do it. You understand. Okay, Jeanette says, my hair's coming out really bad since I had COVID. I need a white shoulder length wig bad. Okay, if you send, I'll write the email address for our help desk, and if you ask them, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. If you're new to this, though, I highly recommend, seriously, I highly recommend you go with Premium by Gabor in the color Silvery Moon. Nigel, if you can Premium. Type that out. If you're looking for a white mid-length wig, if you've tried Premium, anybody in the comments, please go ahead and chime in. But Premium by Gabor is very sleek. It's straight. It has really, really nice, natural volume to it. So if you're new to wigs, you want to stick to something that's kind of light volume, or else it's going to feel like you're wearing a costume piece. Even if it looks great, you know, people just find it very jarring. And I had this experience too, when you go from like no hair to what the heck? Where did all this come from? And it just feels unnatural. But you know, the more you wear the wigs, the more you kind of get used to it and the better it tends to feel. And I definitely think, by the way, you're better off going with the wig instead of going with the topper if you really want white, because that can be hard to find, and it can be hard. Your options are incredibly limited when it comes to toppers to begin with. And in a color like white, they're even harder to come by. So we want to get rid of that email account. You see that there's somebody, I'm going to have to delete your, somebody left their email address here for your privacy and for your safety. We're going to make sure that we edit those out, but we'll leave our email here for you, support@CysterWigs.com. We'd be very happy to help you out. And we do have people who are working the help desk right now answering tickets if you need them. So you could even do it while you're on the live stream. Okay, so
Today, I don't have any banners prepared, and that's because I got some very good feedback from Serene, who is a frequent participant in our live streams, and she's one of the moderators at Moon Kitty.
Thank you, Serene.
Yes, the lovely little Pusheen Moon Kitty up there on my top shelf is from Miss Serene. She left some feedback in our Patreon group, because she's also a patron, where she told me that the banners could be off-putting because they're not going to everybody's screens the same way. So I'm going to just try winging it without them, and I'll wait till you guys give me feedback about what your preferences are. Oh, and I may find myself staring at my monitor a bit more than when I do on the phones, and that's just because it's distracting. It's like a lot larger than the little phone screen, and the camera's a little bit further removed from it. Okay, so today we're doing something really, really super adventurous on a couple different levels, and to me, it's going to be like walking a tightrope. I gotta show you this. This was more of that freaky tattoo skin stuff that I bought from Amazon. And I've been testing out different color combinations because I wanted to find the right rainbow shades. Because I have to mix them all. And the hardest ones to mix were like the red and the purple. The blue. Oh, I came up with a brilliant formula for blue. I'm super excited about it because I want to try to do kind of a metallic, dramatic eyeliner look. We'll see how it goes. I've never tried to do this before. I've been trying to figure it out, and we'll just see how it goes. This whole week has been about trial and error. If it ends up being one big error, then you will learn not to do this. And I think that's fine. My ego is not really that wrapped up in this. I'm okay to be a fool for education. I also have already put on just a little bit of tinted moisturizer, and I have filled in my brows a little bit with a little bit of powder just to prep because I wanted to save a little time because this is going to be a lot, and it's going to take me a lot to mix them. This is probably going to be kind of an extended live stream. There will be a replay, and it will be up on the web when this is over. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Nigel in a second, but I want to first show you the first step of what I'm going to do, and that's prime my eyelids. This time around, I'm using a cheapie but goodie. This is NYX Professional, and this is White Pearl. So it's very, very, very stark white. And it has kind of almost like a satiny, not quite sparkly, but kind of shiny finish to it. And I'm just going to put that all over my lid, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do my brows first, because I wanted to know where the limits were. So that way I don't kind of overdo it with this primer. So, oh, and the brush I'm using is an Arrowhead brush. This is a Smith 253. You can see it's got kind of that arrowhead on it, right? That's for laying down stuff, so it's perfect for this. Okay, go ahead, honey.
All right, Kathleen says, ooh, gorgeous colors. And Tammy says, such an artistic way to plan. My acrylic paint teacher has us mixing paint like that all the time.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. I'll say something else. One of my hobbies back when I had spare time, was painting war game miniatures and action figures, custom action figures. And they've had, I mostly use the Citadel Games Workshop paints. They're very nice, they're very good, they mix easily. And it's a fantastic thing. They'll sell you empty pots, so you can mix the paints you want and have a pot of your own custom paint. But one of the ones that got me is they used to do metallic colors, really, really amazing metallic colors. There was a metallic green, a metallic blue, and a metallic purple that stood out, jewel tones. I mean, of course, they did gold and silver and steel and bronze and all those other medieval fantasy type armor weapons colors and stuff. But I really like their metallic jewel tones paints, and they stopped making them. So one day I went looking for some metallic purple for a project, and they said, we don't make them anymore. Oh, can you recommend what to do in such a case? Oh yeah, just take some of this ordinary purple and mix it with some silver and you're golden. And it worked. It was absolutely wonderful. Well, I wouldn't say I'm an artist. I sort of cobble stuff together, Kathleen.
That's half the fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I mean, I've got a lot of projects where I've done the kit bashing routine, where I start off with something and then just add bits and pieces and greeblies and tchotchkes and stuff on it, like all the best prop builders in Hollywood did. Do you know something? Yes, they are beautiful, Tammy. They're absolutely amazing colors. Shame they don't make so much anymore. But yeah, I was watching a program about how they made the movie Alien, the original Alien from 1979, and this is fantastic. It's all about going out and buying loads of model battleships and sticking the bits to the main model and all that for pipes and this and that and the other. And they also went out and bought a bunch of Star Wars figures and took all the little guns that came with the Star Wars figures and put them around the docking bay, the docking ring for texture. Just fantastic, weird little stuff. Now, this is interesting. Terry says, I get notices for videos right when they happen or later, not just yours. It's as if everything west of the Mississippi doesn't exist. We get notices 3 hours late.
Oh, wow.
Well, that stinks, Terry.
Yeah, no, I'm starting to feel like and this might just be me overreacting, but it's starting to feel like they really just want us to heavily recruit people to come onto whatever their platform is. Yeah. You know, like, I don't know if that's just me jumping to conclusions, but it seems like a calculated thing. Like at first, when they were trying to get their platforms to catch on, they were very eager to help tell people what shows were coming and stuff like that. But now that's no longer a problem, their issue is now how to distribute the content. And so, yeah, they don't really think about it that much. They leave it up to us, and then they make us compete for iShare, so that way they can piggyback off of that and get iShare for their platforms.
I wonder if it's a time zone thing.
I don't know. I'm too cynical. I automatically think it's a business thing.
Well, you know, that's perfectly fine, my sweet. If it were up to me, I'd be cynical as well. I just try to exhaust all the options, but I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt, but trust me, I have an underlying cynicism about everything they do as well. So, you know, you're not alone in that. I'm
gonna put some powder down, I think.
Time zones were a terrible thing for me. For about 18 years, I was back living in England. I'd have friends, particularly my friend Rock and Rob, call me.
Oh, he was a nice dude.
I liked Rob, yeah, but he and a few other people would calculate the time zone difference the other direction, and we'd get a call like 3 in the morning because they thought we were 5 hours behind them. That was powdery.
Yeah, sorry.
Not fun.
Sorry.
Smoking Jane Skeletor.
What about Smoking Jane Skeletor?
Well, I discussed it yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
No, like, are we doing that again?
Well, no, it just reminded me the way that looks like smoke.
I'm putting a little bit of that By Terry powder that I used yesterday up here in the crease area, just because I could already see it kind of doing that. This is the first time I've used this particular color of primer with that sheen to it, but I don't think that's very 40-year-old friendly. We'll put it that way.
Tammy says, I definitely see the difference in promoting lives. I watched several other creators and they are experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, it's been rough. I think they've actually changed some of that just at the beginning of this year too.
Natalie says, NYX Shadow Base is my favorite. I've used MAC and Anastasia and all of the fancy ones, and I just go back to NYX.
Yeah, it's really good. I like I said, this is my first time with this particular color. Maybe next time I'll just stick to the more matte versions. But I do really like the Smashbox one, and I use that one a lot too. But they're all really good, and for the price, it's really hard to beat. Like NYX has some really nice stuff that's kind of hard to beat. Like some of their little 4, no, that's Elf I'm thinking of. Okay, I'm mainly thinking of bases and like cream makeups for NYX. Am I wrong in thinking that that's basically like where they really shine is with like their base makeup? Anyway,
Kathleen says, I think I will have to try NYX.
It's very good for the price. Like it's one of those things you can get at Walmart. But hey, I'm not a snob. I just buy a lot of ritzy makeup because I get bored. And then I'm like, ooh, flashy. Which is basically what we're going to be doing today. So
Becca says, okay, I'm going to try NYX primer. I use the MAC paint pot and I haven't tried anything else but NYX. Prices and quality. Hooray.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I want to say is with this particular one, you can see it's got a little bit of a sparkle to it. As I mentioned earlier, it's got a pearlescent finish, and I didn't like the way that was making the crease look here. So I just put a little bit of powder up there before I start, but we're going to be doing the crease last. We're basically not going to do much of any makeup aside from the stuff that's on the liner part. Like, it's really going to be nuts. Hi, Serene.
Has entered the battle.
Yes.
Oh, and Catherine says, I won't pay to advertise, so Facebook throttles my blog's page and no one gets notifications when I make a post.
You know what? I'd believe it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely believe that.
Bastards.
Yeah. Oh, no. And at this point, I would rather move to a platform that always made me pay and made it free to the audience, as long as we got to avoid these kinds of hassles. And it always sent out notifications for us. I would be down with that. I'm not trying to reach like everybody under the sun. You know, I really want to talk to people who want to talk to me and who like hanging out with me. Like, this is not necessarily like what I want to do with like a customer acquisition thing, I guess.
So yes, you want to run our new social media. What did you do before? Oh, I worked for EA Sports, EA Games.
Oh.
Sick burn on EA.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with gamers, Electronic Arts, aka EA, are the people who invented, oh, let's not sell you a whole game, let's sell you bits and make you pay for the new bits as we finish them. Oh, and if you want to get really good at it, we'll make you pay so you can not have to spend so much time on it.
So it's like the whole world's gone freemium now.
Yeah, basically.
Ew. Ew. Well, anyway, the first color I'm going to be doing is one of these reds. I tried mixing it a few different ways, so we'll see if I can actually remember the formula. The reds were hard because reds, as a lot of you probably know, are actually like, it's hard to find a red that is appropriate to go around your eye area. And that's because the carmine that they typically put in red eye makeup, red makeup period, for one, not vegan, but it's also, it's really irritating. So I tried to find a way to use as little of the actual red as possible. So we're going to be mixing, this is again utilizing my ridiculous eyeshadow collection. So that I figured we got to get creative to justify having it here. So this is actually a great dupe for the Viseart Editorial Brights palette. This is a Ben Nye palette. It's fairly inexpensive. It's like less than 20 bucks. It's the Studio Color Rainbow palette. We're going to be using quite a bit of this. I've actually got a little makeup spatula here. I've got my little easel thingy. I've also got some Inglot makeup mixing liquid. It is a Duraline mixed with a makeup and you mix, it's a Duraline product, and then you mix it with anything and it turns it into an eyeliner. Pretty sweet. So this is going to be painstaking. I'm also probably going to have to tape and probably retape and then probably retape my eye as I do this, because this tape is not super sticky. It's not meant to be, because you don't want something that's really going to stick too much to your eyelid, because then when you got to peel it off, you're going to yank your eyelid, which is not real great. So this doesn't really stick down that well. And so if it falls off, I'm going to have to reapply it. We're probably going to have to reapply primer, whatever. Like, this is all an experiment. Messes happen. It'll be colorful, if nothing else. So I need to put some tape down. So I want to figure out how dramatically I want this line to go. Do I want a curve? Do I not want a curve? I think I do want a curve. And I want it to be kind of thick, so that way I have enough space to showcase the crazy rainbow colors. So here we go. This is Sephora makeup tape. I also have Elf's tape. I just find this to be a little bit more rigid. This comes in like a spool, and we're going to be using a ton of it. I'm probably going to have to.
Kathleen says, "Why do you use tape on your eyes?"
I'm using tape on my eyes because I'm only doing a liner look today. The rest of the eyelid is going to be more or less white, and I want the line to be clean. So if you're doing a really dramatic eye look, sometimes this tape can be very handy because it kind of helps define the edges, and it can make like this way you don't have to freehand it, which is really important for a look this dramatic, because we're gonna have to pause like frequently throughout this routine to mix and test eyeshadows. Literally every single color I'm applying is a mixture of multiple eyeshadows. And I have done quite a bit of testing of it, but we gotta just take our time, and I wanna focus more on getting the colors and the blending of those colors correct, because with liner, you don't have much time, than focusing on whether or not I'm drawing a straight line, which I'm not always that good at. Just freehanding. Now I will probably want to add a flick of some point, a flick of some kind at some point, but not at the moment. I don't need all this extra on the side here. So there's that. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because I can't just do like one eye and then move to the other eye, because then if I have to mix the color twice, it might not match. So I know I look awkward. Hopefully it will be fabulous. So,
well, Becca says, my eyeliners are notoriously wonky and mismatched, so I need to try this trick. And Kathleen says, got it. I always wondered how people can get straight eyeliner for liquid.
Yeah, no, and this is just an eyeliner look. So I'm actually going to take this, and it's going to be hard to show this every time I'm doing it. So I will just try to show it now and tilt the screen down a little bit now so you can see what I'm doing. But just, you'll have to catch this on the replay if you didn't catch it already. Okay. So I'm not going to be able to get the palette in there too, but I'm basically taking this, and I
hold it up a bit.
There we go.
There you go.
I'm taking this red from this palette, and I'm just gently scraping it.
Can't see it still.
Well, if you come and hold the easel, it might help.
Sure.
You're like, you're not doing it right.
You're
not doing it right. Okay, so
right.
Teamwork. Okay, got it?
Got it.
Okay, move it down just a little bit, and maybe away just a little bit so I can get the thing in there. We can do this. All right. So I'm basically just scraping a little bit of this, and I'm not, don't dig in, because you will break up this whole palette, or the whole pan rather. So you just kind of want to scrape it in there. Really, 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 really gently. In this case, I need a little bit more of that pigment. Okay, we're good. So now take it as a given that that's what I'm going to be doing with all of these colors, and I'm probably going to wipe it off, the little spatula off more regularly. Can you put this in the chat, honey? Someone requested to know what the eyeliner stuff was. We're getting it in there for you.
Okay.
But just go ahead and read it off.
Okay. Oh, I was going to say, Beck says, my son who's in KG loves to remind me that teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right. I love that. In fact, I think I said that to Nigel earlier.
You say that loads of times.
I know. I love that. I really do. We're also going to be mixing some hot pink in here. And that is courtesy of this. This is the Makeup Forever Palette 9 Artist Shadow Palette. I don't even know if they make this anymore, but it's got this really gorgeous hot pink that has a little hard pan on it, but whatever. I'm going to go ahead and scrape some of that in here. In fact, I'll probably want just a little bit more. Now you gotta be careful mixing the pink into the red, because pink has a violet base, so it's got a little bit of blue to it.
There you go, my treasure.
So thank you. And I don't want this to look purple. So to counteract that a little bit, I'm also going to mix it with a little bit of some of the colors in this, which is the Pat McGrath Mothership eyeshadow palette. In the color, and this is in Dark Galaxy. This is their Sith themed Mothership palette. And you got to be super careful when you scrape this because all these shadows, with the exception of the one matte burgundy color that's called Venomous Void, which is up here, everything else has a ton of mica in it, which is very fragile. So just know that you have to go really, really soft with these because they'll break up more than you want them to. But the amount that I'm taking each time is about that big. Oh, and I just dropped some on my laptop. Cool. It'll be very, very pretty. The prettiest laptop around. All this Pat McGrath on it. And I'm also taking a little bit of the, what is that color called? Where are you, friend? You are the Cosmic with a K at the end. A little bit of that. You can see, even though I was very gentle, it breaks up a little bit more than you want it to.
Ah, there's an idea.
What's that?
Natalie says these makeup chats are so fun to watch. Now we just need a Moon Kitty eyeshadow palette.
Yes!
No pressure.
Oh no! It would be amazing. We would have to put like all kinds of pretty silvers and teals and stuff in there.
Oh yes.
And now I'm adding,
and an orange.
Yes, the Inglot stuff, and I'm actually putting that into another section of the easel or the palette or whatever this is. Like I'm putting in a little reservoir over here. The doodly doo. And that way I can have more control over the mixture. Okay, so I'm just gently taking some of this and mixing it over here into the place where all the powders live. And mixing that up. This takes a couple minutes, so I'm just going to play with my eye makeup.
Kathleen S. says, since I'm 50, is there a style of makeup that should be avoided?
I think that is only really limited on your sense of style, how adventurous you are, and your willingness to develop the technique required to pull it off. Because you have to keep adopting new techniques as you age to accommodate the way your skin is laying, because it changes. And that's something I've been really struggling with now. But I'm totally up for the challenge. I think it's intriguing. I think that it's weird, you know? Like I kind of, and I've mentioned this in the past, I get kind of annoyed when everyone's like, you know, once you hit 35, 40, you should do all natural makeup looks. I'm like, I'll do that. I'm doing one tomorrow. And yesterday's look was pretty subdued. I could have wore that to the office with all those pinks. But, you know, I want to be able to do whatever I feel like doing. And I enjoy the challenge of trying to figure it out. Like, I think that's kind of cool. Because, I mean, it's easy to make a 20-year-old look like a 20-year-old. And have you ever noticed the irony of the fact that when a woman who's really young wears a lot of makeup, they say she looks too old, and when a woman who's a little bit older wears a lot of makeup, they say that, you know, she just looks like she's not wearing age-appropriate makeup. So what age is appropriate for heavy makeup? It kind of makes me feel like those people just don't like heavy makeup, and they're just trying to come up with justifications for it. When it's like, you know, do what you want to do, right? What, I don't feel like you need to do what I do and vice versa.
Well, Stacy says, I'm 52 and I just kind of do whatever I want anyway.
Heck yeah.
There you go.
That's right. I mean, you only get one life to live. I hate to be all like YOLO, but
well, unless,
YOLO.
You know, unless you're, oh crap, that falls down if I can't remember the name. Crap on a stick. I have this problem, folks, where if I'm about to remember someone's name, at the most crucial point, just when it's about to come out of my mouth, it leaves my brain entirely and I forget who I was going to talk about.
That's okay.
Shirley MacLaine.
Oh, there you go.
You only live once unless you're Shirley MacLaine, apparently.
You know what? That would have been even funnier if you would have Jeff Goldblum that. You know what I mean? Like,
you know who only work, who doesn't only live once? Shirley MacLaine.
No. You know, he it seems like the bit that they do for him is like, it's almost like a Rube Goldberg machine, but of logic to get to the conclusion. It's like potato, French fries, McDonald's, Ronald McDonald. And then like you could, that just sounded like a plug for McDonald's. I'm not being endorsed by McDonald's. Yeah. 20 words later, you get to whatever he was trying to come up with. I think that's the bit.
Oh, hell no. Trying to go with old just makes you look drab and old. Not that mean to me.
That's right.
Nikki says, I'll do what I want.
Love the pink hair.
And fashion. Honestly, there is no rule. Erin, age 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
That's right.
And Natalie says, I'm 43 and my preferred makeup look is loud and bright and colorful.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
so I've got this mixed up. I've been kind of playing with the consistency to make sure it's okay. And I actually wiped off the brush a little bit. I'm going back to my Wayne Goss 8, which is what I use for like more precise gel liners. This is definitely soft and it's probably going to take a hot minute to dry. So I'm going to try not to get it on my lashes. See, that tape already tried to move on me.
Chow Fam says, Nigel, stop verbalizing my problem on the internet. Well, if it makes you feel any better, at least someone else knows what you're going through.
Okay, so the way I'm going to construct this is that this red is going to go this way, and we're going to get like a tasty rainbow that kind of wraps around my eye. So you can see I kind of took a little bit of this and a clean brush. This is the flat definer, and I kind of made that a little bit softer looking, not such a hard line. That's because we're going to be blending that violet and purple when it wraps around into that. So I'm going to do the other side now.
Kathleen says, I'll wear anything, just did not know when it comes to wrinkles. Practice, I suppose.
Also, embrace light diffusing products. You know, you got to be careful with the powder. You got to be really, really careful with powder and apply it kind of strategically, particularly if you're prone to dry skin, because that will accentuate all of that. But I really, really embrace light diffusing products, especially ones that don't look particularly like sparkly. You know, I do like sparkly colors, but if I'm putting sparkle on, I want it to be a deliberate choice.
Natalie says, pro tip, I think Heather has addressed this for mature skin. Shiny stuff, especially highlighters, etc., can enhance texture, so experiment with what's right for your skin.
That is absolutely right. And I even touched on that a little bit yesterday because I found that, you know, I really like, for example, the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Filter as something to add to my foundation, but I don't necessarily enjoy it very much as a standalone product because it makes my skin very shiny. And I get zits. Like I got one here, I got one over here, I got one over here. And, you know, last thing I want to do is really say, hi, everybody, I've got this. I mean, I just did it literally, but you know what I mean? I don't want you to be like, oh, she just turned on a beauty cam and she has a third eye. So I think that I'm going to kind of let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to put a second coat on, and then we'll move on to the next color. And while we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about being on the spectrum and what that is like from my perspective. I think I wanted to start off by basically saying what autism is, and that is that it is a spectrum condition. And there's a little bit of a debate within the autism community of like, philosophically, do we like the term autism spectrum disorder? A lot of people use ASC instead, which is autism spectrum condition, because it doesn't have the stigmatizing effect of saying that it's something wrong with people. Because that's a very, you know, if you view it that way, it looks kind of ableist to say, you know, hey, you know, you're not like us, so there's something wrong with you. Okay, so that's the debate there. But essentially, it is a multifaceted condition that has different symptoms depending on the severity, and every single person is a little bit different. So to that regard, just know that I'm talking about myself specifically throughout almost all of this when I talk about autism. And just know that I'm not trying to speak for the entire autism community. I'm not qualified. And I also know that everybody who has this condition is affected by it in different ways. And I don't want to ever try to take the agency away from people who want to express that. It's just me claiming that for myself, you know? So it's kind of like a learning disability that is married to a pretty bad social impairment. Now, I don't really have quite as many of the learning disability parts of this. There are some components of that, but I think that really calls into question, okay, so what's the difference between a high-functioning autistic and one who isn't? And I think that the difference is really that, you know, when most people say the term high functioning, they mean somebody who is verbal, who has, you know, an average or above average IQ, can work, can do, you know, can hold down a quote unquote normal life, and have relationships and stuff like that, you know. It's not one of those things that's like super well defined, because when they diagnose you, they don't necessarily say, hey, you're high functioning. They just say you're autistic. So they don't even make the distinction about Asperger's syndrome anymore. So I'll make sure that that's actually showing up evenly on both sides on this edge here. I put a little bit more on this side because I have to be able to wipe this red off of this palette to move on. So I want to make sure I'm completely done with it. Okay. So I first got flagged as potentially being autistic when I was in kindergarten. And then first grade was when it started to become more obvious. Now, things are way, way different now than they were when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, they didn't really make the distinction at all about, you know, high functioning autism or Asperger's syndrome. And so there was really only two options. One option being, you know, keep me in normal classes. I'm fine. Don't give me any accommodations, because it, you know, there were no accommodations for people who were higher functioning. And then, or they could put me in the LD classes. And they gave me an IQ test, and they definitely didn't want to put me in the LD classes because I was already like a pure math tutor, even in like second grade and stuff. So, I mean, this was a process and it took a while. And so, and by the way, this was in the early 80s, like mid to early 80s. So not a whole lot of options available for people on the spectrum. So I didn't even know, by the way, that any of this was going on. I had like no idea at all. Like, you know, no one disclosed to me, hey, you might have this thing, right? And all the while I'm doing things that in hindsight, as a kid, definitely, like in hindsight, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, of course, that would have been considered weird. But back then, you know, because I don't pick up on this stuff organically, like, here's the thing, like a lot of people with autism, and they've done studies on this, we don't have the same kind of mirror neurons, like the same quality, they don't function the same way. In our prefrontal cortex is a lot of people who are not on the spectrum. And so, you know, one of the things that's diagnostically relevant in really, really small babies is if they don't mirror your facial expressions, like at all. Like if you smile and coo at a baby and the baby never laughs, never smiles, just stares at you, you know, that's actually, that might be an autistic kid, because we don't pick up on that stuff. We don't pick up on it. So little things like, you know, in elementary school, they make you line up as a class for laboratory breaks. And I'm going to start gathering the materials for the second color while I talk. Oh, this is easy. This is just Pick a Struggle by Notoriously Morbid, which is a loose pigment. It is a multi-chrome. And I'm going to mix some of the orange in this palette with it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while I talk, which is kind of a feat. This is definitely something that I'm very proud that I'm actually able to do this kind of thing, where I'm able to do a live stream, and like multitasking on any level is like a small victory, you know? But if I screw it up, please forgive me. But yeah, like little things, like when I was in elementary school, we would line up after lavatory breaks and I would face the wall. Okay, so imagine, like, I'm gonna do a demonstration. Imagine every little kid is facing this way. Oh, there's a spotlight on me now with this crazy tape on my eyes. And, you know, it's just a row of kids sitting there, you know, regular kid stuff. They're just like, come on, can we go now? They're like bored, you know, because they have to wait for the last person to leave the laboratory before they can go back to their classroom. Well, me, I'd be sitting here facing the wall, like standing facing the wall, stimming on the smooth tiles and the stonework of the wall. And I'd be humming into it. I would hum into the wall to myself while I was doing that. So yeah, it wasn't one of those things that like went under the radar, because that's pretty obvious, right? Like when I would go to the bathroom, I would hum. And, you know, it might not make sense, but from my perspective, it made perfect sense, because all those smooth surfaces made all of the sounds really, really loud, and just everybody talking, all those kids talking at the same time, and all the noise from the toilets flushing and everything, it was overwhelming. And so I would hum to kind of drown out the sound, because the sound in my head from the humming and the reverberation would be louder. And by the way, it's still a reflex. I still do this whenever I clean the house, whenever the vacuum's running. I just involuntarily start humming, because the overtones of the vacuum cleaner just really, it's a lot for me.
That's why I wait till you're out of the house before I do hoovering.
I'm doing equal parts of those two colors, by the way. I'm gonna mix this goop in with it now. Again, I'm putting it in its own little spot here, and I'm just gonna gently mix it up. But yeah, it's to me, that's the part that is the easiest for me to identify about myself, is that I don't always pick up on other people's cues. I'm terrible at reading a room. I would love to be better at it, but it's just not a skill I'm going to be able to learn, because it's not a matter of inclination or caring. It's a matter of like, my brain just literally doesn't see it. It's blind to that stuff. So in a lot of ways, my autism is a social impairment more than basically anything else. Because I would desperately like to be able to have the kind of conversations with people in person that I tend to have so easily here on social media. Like in live streams, this is much easier, because little things like my eye contact with you are things that you're not really going to pick up on quite as much here in a live stream, but they'll become a little more obvious when I'm in your presence. And it's a real subtle thing, right? But what it usually does is it gives people kind of like this uncanny valley effect, because my eye contact with them is either too intense, or, you know, my eyes are jutting all over the room. Like if there's a lot of distraction going on, like it can look a lot like ADD, you know, because I'll be like all over the room. And it's just because all of the noises, and I don't know if all autistic people are like this, but for me, it's like all the noises that go on in a room are the same volume. And it becomes very difficult to pull one out from the mix. So like if I'm in a crowded space, everything is just really loud. It's just one gigantic din.
Got a couple comments I'd like to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me find it now because they've started to go. Here we go. Right. All right. Catherine R says, did they put you in the TAG, Talented and Gifted program in school? I hated it.
Oh, I was, it was one of those things where it was kind of like piecemeal. Like, for example, I was in Midwest Talent Search. So I got to take my SAT when I was 14 and I never had to take it again. The score was not anything that impressive. I just didn't have to take it again. It met the bare minimum requirement. So whatever. That's what I used to get into college. Like I just was like, yeah, this test I took when I was 14. And I was also like on the academic challenge team. Just a lot of stuff like that. I was in Business Professionals of America, et cetera, et cetera. But I was in some accelerated classes, but the thing is, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but in high school, I went through a really severe bout of depression because of some stuff that was going on in my home life. And I just kind of gave up. So I went from being like a kind of a high achiever academically and an excellent test taker to somebody who was getting like a D for diploma. I fixed that when I went to college, but
which says, from April, says, my son was diagnosed as high functioning with Asperger's in 2002. He is now 22 and in medical school.
That's amazing.
Hearty congratulations to the fella.
Yes, that is incredible. That's wonderful. And that's just it. Like, that is a characteristic of Asperger's. And I sort of miss that as a diagnosis in and of itself, because the challenges that face high functioning people are way different than the ones that are met by lower functioning people. And by low functioning people typically mean that they have an IQ lower than 70 and that they're potentially nonverbal. Okay, so there's a huge gap between those two, you know, because a lot of people on the higher end of things can be absolutely gifted. Like your son can be absolutely gifted. It's just they have an obvious impairment in other areas. And for me, as I mentioned, almost all of my impairments come from this kind of like social blindness that is frankly very embarrassing to talk about, which is part of the reason why I'm so worried about kind of getting overwhelmed.
Well, Natalie says, normalizing PCOS, hormone struggles, autism, and mental health issues. Not all heroes wear capes, Heather. I adore you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. You know, I really appreciate that. I found as I've gotten older, there's just it's a much bigger burden to try to suppress all this stuff. And I'd much rather just talk about it, even if it is kind of cringy sometimes. You know, I spent the last two the last two live streams talking about my periods. So we're just on a roll with the cringe. As long as you're here for it, that's cool. I'm here for it too. I'm just cleaning the palette off a little bit so we can move on to the yellow. Probably being a little bit too generous with some of the areas of color, but that's okay. You can kind of see I'm trying to blend the transitions a little bit. Let's see if that's working. Is it working? Yay! Okay. Okay, we got that there too. Good stuff. We're gonna move on to the gold, but I'm not done talking about the weird stuff. It will continue. I just want to make sure that I don't take 5 hours to put my eye makeup on. All right. For this one, we're using a bunch of different stuff. The yellow was a little bit tricky to mix. Maybe since I'm running out of space. Trying to think of how I want to handle this.
No. Brenda says, I'm a retired special education teacher. Autism doesn't equal intelligence. Adaptations and understanding are key, in my opinion.
That's right. Well, autism definitely doesn't equate intelligence, because when people think of autism, they generally think Rain Man, you know, that sort of thing, where, you know, the low IQ component is part of that, and it is diagnostically relevant. I think it's kind of just a disservice to people both on the higher functioning end of the spectrum and the lower functioning end of the spectrum to lump us all in together, because I think we all have different needs, and that they're not really going to be adequately addressed if everyone with the condition is treated the same way and labeled the same thing. That's just my opinion in that regard. But I do think that that's absolutely right, because a lot of folks with autism need a lot of interventions. They need a lot of help, and in some cases they can need lifelong caregiving. And obviously you can see that that is a difference between that end of the spectrum and where I sit. And I don't want to make it sound like it's a moralistic thing at all. Like, I don't think that I'm better people than people who, I don't think better people, like I'm multiple people. I don't think I am a better person than people who are lower functioning. And if anything, I feel like sometimes it's like my responsibility, if I know I'm in the presence of another autistic person, if I get the indication that they are not picking up on something that I can see, or vice versa, we should help each other, that sort of thing. But it's a tricky thing to navigate. And it's a tricky thing to talk about, because everybody seems to come to the table with these preconceived notions that we're either Spock or we're Rain Man. And most of us are kind of like in the middle. We're not like, I'm not a savant, you know? I think that's a trope. Much like the manic pixie dream girl is a trope. I think that the savant autistic I think that is a trope. There are savants, but they're so incredibly rare that, you know, I know that it makes it fun to talk about, but it's wrong to assume that all autistic people are capable of being savant-like. And I don't consider myself a savant. I just have things that I'm very focused on and that I tend to learn really quickly. And anything outside of those topics tends to be a struggle.
Catherine says, sound is all the same for me also. Crowd noise is like being inside an avalanche.
Oh my, yes.
That's a very good analogy.
Yes. One of my horror stories about that sort of thing is I went to a brand new Steak and Shake when it first opened, because I had some friends that wanted to go. This was a really long time ago. That Steak and Shake closed recently, but the environment was very, very acoustically dense, and it was packed. There were so many people in there. And there was a lady next to me, very nice lady, who was basically trying to shout directly into my ear so we could have a conversation. And she was right here, and I literally could not hear a word that was coming out of her mouth, because all I could hear was the collective din. And I got so overwhelmed that I literally didn't even eat my dinner. I walked outside and I sat outside on the sidewalk for a little bit just to like calm down. Because when you get overstimulated with autism, it's not like one of those things where you can sit there and just white knuckle your way through it. When it gets really bad, that's when, you know, the rocking starts, the hand flapping starts. I mean, and then you're setting yourself up for a meltdown. And, you know, one thing that really bums me out is that, you know, I know that sometimes parents will put videos of their autistic kid having a meltdown on social media. They really shouldn't do that. Like, they shouldn't do that, because it's not the same as a temper tantrum. It's literally like every single neuron in your brain. This is not what's happening, but this is what it feels like. It feels like every sensory neuron in your brain is misfiring at the same time, and it becomes painful. Like, it's like having somebody squeeze you really, 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 really hard, and then you can't get them to let go. It's just like a terrible sensation. Like, I'm trying to think of like the best way to describe it. And it's like, all I keep thinking of are like sounds, like really abrasive noises, like metal on metal, or like wearing a wet wool sweater. Like, it's just such an overwhelming sensation. I don't really know how to adequately describe it, but it's if it triggers a meltdown, it's like the last thing you want is attention. You want to get away from people. You just need to go someplace without a whole lot of, like, God bless Dolly Parton, for real, because a couple years ago, she decided to put quiet rooms into Dollywood. for the autistic kids. We need stuff like that. Like if you go on a roller coaster, you get really pumped about it, and then all of a sudden, you know, you could be fine on the ride. You could be fine on the ride, right? But then maybe there's just too many people around and they're all talking at the same time, and that could freak you out. Or there are too many lights or too many flashing lights. There could be a whole bunch of things. Everyone's got little different triggers. Mine all tend to be kind of acoustic. I have no problem at all on roller coasters or thrill rides. I am a thrill ride junkie.
I'll attest to that, having been to Cedar Point with her.
Yes, I'm an absolute thrill ride junkie. But yeah, I still would take being on a 100-foot roller coaster drop any day over being in a really crowded room. Like any day. I mixed this color up. It's kind of a mustardy, goldy color. This is a combination of the Ben Nye yellow. I also use some Pat McGrath here because I have this other Star Wars palette.
That's the gold one from
it's
the
C3PO.
gold
one from the C3PO palette, though I don't remember offhand what that's called. I also use a little bit of this color down here. We'll put all this in the description after this the replay goes live. But I also use a little bit of this sparkly color here from the Midnight Sun palette. And then I just mix them all up. Most of the color is actually the Ben Nye yellow. And so it's like 2 parts that and 1 part each of the other 2. And then quite a bit of that Duraline stuff was mixed in here. And now we're gonna go out here.
AJ says, I find it hindering in my autism that affects me academically, but ever so slightly. I have a hard time correcting other people, and that seems to be a big thing in my focus career. Yeah, I can imagine. Do you mean you have a hard time correcting people when they're wrong, or you have a hard time correcting people more often than they think you should? Because I get that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are people out there being wrong, AJ. There are people out there being wrong, and they must be corrected.
Oh, honey.
Got a bit of OCD there, sorry. Honestly, it does. Occasionally lose me some social currency points. Brenda says, sometimes what looks like a mild problem to others is severe to the one experiencing the difficulty. Oh, yes.
Yes. For me, you know, I've learned coping strategies, but I mean, I spent most of my life not even knowing what was up, because I didn't find out until I was in my 30s that they had even done, you know, the classroom sit-in test on me where they had somebody observe me and all that stuff. Like, they did that to me a couple times in school, and I had no idea what it was about. I didn't even know that I was the subject of it, the room study, but apparently I was. But
sorry, Tammy says that social blindness thing is super interesting, and it might be happening to me. It really frustrates me when people tell me I'm not seeing something others think is obvious. It feels very vulnerable.
yeah. Oh no, it's an awful sensation, particularly when other people pick up on it and exploit it. That is really, really, really bad. Because, you know, one thing that took me a really, really, really long time to figure out was sarcasm and euphemism. I still struggle really, really hard with people who use a lot of soft talking, like when they talk around a subject because they don't want to get to the point. I really struggle with that. You know, I understand sometimes they're just trying to be nice, but I get so lost, and then it's like I need an interpreter. I also have some face blindness. So if I forget people's names, it's not because I don't care. It's because I literally can't remember what they look like. And it's not to be rude. I don't recall that stuff very well. And that's a genuine hindrance in business, not being able to remember people's names or faces. Like, part of being charismatic is remembering stuff like that. Yeah. So I know for a fact I'm not genuinely that charismatic.
Well, I know a little bit about what you're talking about, Tammy, because I grew up as a foreigner in the USA, and then after spending more than almost 2.5 decades in the USA, I moved back to England, and all the social tropes and touchstones are different, and I just sort of someone says something that I'm supposed to know about, and I just look at them blankly, and they say, "What? You don't get such and such in America?" No. And it does leave you feeling behind, definitely. Susan says, "Appreciate your being open."
Well, thank you, Susan. So far, this is going pretty well. I mean, I've talked on some kind of sensitive topics for me, but none of it's really been that bad so far. So thank you for being such a good audience and such a compassionate audience. I appreciate that. Because I often fear that if I talk about this, that people are going to assume that I'm doing it because, like, I'm trying to excuse something that I probably don't even realize I've done wrong, you know, or they'll just like insert some kind of, you know, uncharitable explanation for why I would just, you know, say something like this when clearly, you know, I manage all of these moving parts and I'm developing wigs and all this stuff, and I'm clearly, you know, high functioning, I guess. So clearly I'm just exaggerating whenever I say that there's an issue, or I'm just saying it for effect. And that is not the case at all. It's frustrating in a way. And again, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege on this, and that is not lost on me, but it is really frustrating to have people have that cliched interpretation that we're all Rain Man or that we're all savants. Because then when I disclose that I have autism, they tell me things that, you know, are like, "You don't look like it. I would have never thought that about you." And what that is saying to me, and I choose not to be offended by those things, by the way. What I tend to think about with these things is that I'm doing a great job masking. Like I take it as a small victory in a way, because it's like clearly I'm better at masking than I give myself credit for. And what I've been trying to do lately is I've been trying to peel back on that a little bit in my personal life, just because it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And in case you don't know what I mean, they also call it camouflaging. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, when you're on the spectrum, particularly on the high functioning end, you learn to suppress your symptoms. You learn to pick up, maybe not like as an instinct, you know, the you know, like I don't necessarily pick up immediately on when people are, sorry, I'm getting a little bit whew.
Do you need to take a break, my sweet?
I'll be okay. I just need to like center myself for a second. So see, this is like a really touchy subject, this aspect of it, because you know, I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be fake. But I also do not want to be abrasive. And I don't want to do things that I know might unintentionally offend people, which is always the risk with this this kind of manifestation of autism, is that, you know, because we mask so well, anytime that the mask slips at all, it basically looks like we're just faking it, you know? And so to me, it's like a balancing act. Like, I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be a phony, but I also do not want to live up to the faulty perception that a lot of people have about autistics, and that we're just unrepentant a-holes. Because I can tell you that most of us understand that we put our feet firmly in our mouths once in a while. We understand that. But most of the autistic people I know, including myself, it breaks our hearts when we know that we've offended people. Like, it's really hard to live with sometimes. And we tend to beat ourselves up a lot for not seeing these things, because, you know, we have this thing drilled into us that because we're high functioning, that, and we're picking up on this stuff almost like, you know, it's a science experiment. We can witness that people are doing certain things, and eventually we pick up on patterns. And then we can use that information about those patterns to then try to duplicate that behavior to try to fit in. But I think that I do myself, and I do other people on the higher end of the spectrum kind of a disservice by like mainly I do people around me a disservice by masking too much, because then they can't tell when I'm actually in distress or when I'm actually hurting, you know, like they can't help me because I'm trying so hard to suppress it so I'm not a burden to them. And it takes a toll psychologically. The best way that I can think of to describe what it feels like in this regard is I have friends who are nurses and stuff like that. And the people who work in nursing and teaching and professions like that, you know, they have to suppress their feelings about what happens on the job while they're on the job. And I feel like all social interactions are like that. They're all kind of like an emotional labor of love. And the problem with doing it too much is that it kind of has this inadvertent side effect of keeping people at an arm's length, because they're only interacting with the masked part of you. And so it can take people off guard. For example, if I have a meltdown around them, which my meltdowns are very mild. Like I'm not generally violent. My tone will go up. I will get loud, and I will tend to withdraw. And you know, the worst thing that anyone can try to do if I'm having that reaction is to try to touch me. And I try to let people know about this in advance before those moments crop up. But literally in those moments, I'm hyperstimulated, and the overstimulation can really, really make it difficult for me to process information. It is a painful sensation. It's very disorienting. It is confusing. You lose sight of who's in the room with you even sometimes. It's just, you have this like very narrow laser-like focus on getting the hell out of the room or the situation that is causing the problem. And it's, or is causing the stimulation. You're just eager to get away from it. And people can have very negative reactions to me when I'm in that level of distress. And I have witnessed it firsthand where they're very eager to be kind of critical about that because they don't understand what they're looking at. So a lot of the time, you know, autistic people have to skirt this fine line where we know that we are at the mercy of the non-autistic people around us and their ability to interpret our behavior and what we're saying. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of folks who don't know anything about this condition have very strong opinions about it. And they assume that people as high functioning as I am can't possibly have any real impairments. And my real impairment is that, you know, for example, if I'm stressed out, it makes masking difficult. If masking is difficult, that mask might slip. And then if I get overstimulated, people who are used to me being very warm and receiving and wanting to help them, they feel like, whoa, she's psycho, because she just ran for the door, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, I seriously need a moment to woo-saw, calm down, and then I will come back and we will handle whatever we need to handle. But
woo-saw?
Woo-saw, you know, deep breath, woo-saw. But
you lost me.
Yeah,
cultural touchstone.
Yeah, I don't even know what that's from. I've just heard other people say it. But yeah, it's rough because I think that's part of why it's so important not to mask too much these days. Philosophically, I feel like people need to see this so that they can learn, and they can see that I'm actually working a lot harder than they realize for their comfort. You know, I want people to want to be around me, and it's something I'm very scared of is just like going 100% maskless, because there are lots of things at this point in my life I've, you know, in hindsight, I have learned how to suppress. One is echolalia. I don't know if you guys know what echolalia is, but it, you know, you'll know it if you encounter somebody who does it. So Nigel, say something.
Okay, well. Yeah, so whatever.
You know, like they mouth it. I can't even really fake it now because I've taught myself not to do it. But as a kid, all the time. I don't think I trained myself to stop doing that until I was like in middle school. And it was only because I got punished a lot for it. So I learned how to stop doing that. But the echolalia got me grounded a lot, because it's very easy, for example, for people to interpret you being a smartass when you're mouthing what they just said. But literally that is diagnostically relevant. It's actually something that is in the DSM-5 as something that autistic people do. So it would have been a signal that something was up, you know? But unfortunately, if people don't understand what they're looking at, it's really easy for them to interpret very uncharitable things. Like, for example, with the meltdowns, a lot of NTs tend to think that they're like temper tantrums that toddlers have, and they're not. Because, you know, we're not doing it for effect. If anything, I want people to not give me attention, which is kind of like the opposite of what ends up happening. And that tells you right there that it's not a deliberate choice, because I'm already overstimulated. I'm eager to get away from having people focus their attention on me or being in any more of a stimulating situation. And then when attention's put on me in those moments, it's like, and then I just gotta hightail it to a quiet space until I calm down.
AJ's got a good question. TMI question for the two of you. How does autism affect your relationship? For my marriage, my husband feels that I have lack of interest. He knows that's not true, but took time for him to get used to.
I think that that's very, very similar here. I think for me, I definitely have and I'll let you speak a little bit more to this too. I don't want to just dominate this conversation, but for me, you know, I tend to do the classic autistic monologue thing a lot. Go figure, right? It's not like I'm not doing that right now. But yeah, when I get on a subject that I'm super passionate about, oh God. And then anytime another topic comes up, I somehow have a magic ability to bring it back to that thing, even though I'm trying not to do it. I'm sure that gets tedious after a while. I think that, you know, I do have a little bit of that cliche extreme male brain thing going on. And for me, it's hard just to tell if that's mainly like the testosterone from the PCOS or if that's literally the autism. So I don't know. It's one of the two cliches. It's just a matter of which one, or maybe a combination of both. But I definitely tend to be very Spock-like. You know, he might be very romantic at times. He is incredibly romantic at times. I've shared some of those stories. He's wonderful with that. He's like making kissy faces at me back there. but sometimes this stuff goes right over my head. Like it's like I'm a wall and it just bounces right off of me.
Well, I'll say this, Maestro. I'll say this. It is incredibly refreshing to have someone who is blunt and honest about relationship pitfalls and misunderstandings rather than someone who takes everything the wrong way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because you don't automatically ascribe what's what I'm looking for? Bad intent to a mistake or a misinterpretation or something that you might misinterpret or anything like that. We just rectify it.
Yeah, like I might take something a little bit too literally once in a while, like when you're trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
And that might be kind of awkward. Yeah. And there have been a couple times where I've gotten kind of like, what? About it, you know, because I misinterpreted it and thought he was being literal when he was being sarcastic. But for the most part, Nigel's known me just like a super long time. And I think
since 1999, we've known each other coming up on 22 years.
He knows who he married. He intentionally got in line to be with a weirdo. So
well, I'm weird as well. I mean, I'm weird in different ways, but you know, we're weirdos who can have a laugh together and have fun together and like each other, and you know, can be locked up in a house for a year and still not kill each other.
That's right.
Yeah,
we're doing pretty well, but yeah, it does cause some friction once in a while.
It does, like when you're having a bit of stress or a meltdown, and I want to help you, but I'm not quite sure what to do, because sometimes a hug helps, sometimes it makes things worse, and
it really depends on the situation and the stimulation that I'm experiencing. Like, for example, we got a weighted blanket, so I could try calming myself with a weighted blanket sometimes, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it makes it worse. So I wish I knew. I wish a little light would go off on my forehead or something and say, hug me.
That would be helpful.
When it was appropriate. But I don't even know. And in those moments, I have no words. The only thing I can really do is if he gets close to me when I'm not feeling it, just go, no. Yeah. So, sometimes in an awkwardly aggressive way, but, you know, it'll just come out loud. You know what I mean? Not mean.
Not intentionally mean,
right. Well,
just,
yeah, that's more accurate.
Yeah.
So I actually mixed a color from the Escape Pod because we're going to venture into greens now. I took some of this Galactic Gala, which is like this kind of metallic chartreuse color from the Escape Pod by Kaleidos. And I put some of that Duraline stuff in there, and I'm just mixing it up, making it pretty. Pretty little chartreuse. It's fun. I feel very Bob Rossi today. I should hold this on my thumb. You want to take over for a little bit, honey?
All right. Sandy says it happens to people with bipolar or also loud sounds and crowds can be too overstimulating. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are people generally pretty understanding of that if you tell them that you're being overstimulated? Because in my experience, people always tend to take it personally. Yeah. Maybe it's just in my delivery mechanism, which I have to always assume will play a factor at some point. But like,
Stacy says I had a picture of Spock up on my dorm room wall as a freshman in college. I got a few strange looks for that. I was like, "What? You don't love Spock?"
Who doesn't love Spock?
No, great character. Kathleen says, I tell my kids nothing wrong with being weird. You are unique. I beat to my own drummer.
That's right. I love that. I think conformity is highly overrated. Now, I spent a great deal of my effort and time trying to conform. And after realizing that, you know, I have like genuine neurological limitations to how far I can take that, I have learned to, I mean, I'm in the process of learning. I should be more honest. Like, I'm learning to let it go, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I thought maybe if I try hard enough, I can actually like, I guess, be not autistic.
Well, it reminds me of those internet memes where they say someone telling someone to do something, and then they say, "No, not like that."
Yeah.
Be an individual. No, not like that.
It's like
everyone else.
Yeah, it's like your resume. When you do a resume, they're like, you got to stand out, but there's a very specific way you have to make this look.
Yes. Exactly. It's a friggin' minefield for everyone, not just autistic people, and how autistic people are not supposed to be completely puzzled by the hypocrisy of it.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And when you point it out to people, they're like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, one of the things that, like, I feel like I have, like, an inner Jerry Seinfeld that is always like, what's the deal with that? And ever since I was a little kid...
are these people?
Yeah. Ever since I was a little kid, for example, I'm like, why do women have to wear underwire bras if they don't need them? Like, if you find that is, you know, good for you, then stick with it. I'm not trying to take that away from you, but like they should make more kinds of bras than just underwires because they're super uncomfortable. And why do we have to wear them anyway? Like mine never came in right. Like I said that in the last video. I mean, we're just covering all the awkward stuff, as I said. And you know, so I've never actually really needed one ever. Except for to hide the nips. That's it. It's just because society's super uptight about nips that that I had to hide mine. And then my brother got to walk around, walking the dog shirtless and stuff. I was always like, what the heck? So as a little kid, a lot of those sorts of things that are just like cultural norms seem really, really ridiculous to me. And they still don't make any sense. And then when I would ask my parents about them or adults in my life, they would just think I was the most annoying person ever.
Well, the one thing that gets me is I've never been a big fan of sports. But robot wars, yeah, but not general sports things. And I was always picked on for that and asked if I was gay and all that sort of thing, because this was back in the 80s when it was acceptable to accuse people of being gay for not liking sports. And I said, no, I'm not gay, but I just don't see why I should want to watch a bunch of rich, sweaty, muscular men run around in shorts and tights after a ball.
You make it sound almost appealing, though. You're like, men, rich men with nice butts running around in tight pants. Exactly. I could see watching that for like an hour.
They watch that constantly. and I'm supposed to feel bad for not wanting to? And Kathy says, when did you find out that you were autistic? Oh, that's a nice snowy owl.
Oh, it's pretty.
I was born in the 80s and no one could really tell my parents what was going on with me. And still to this day, I've not had a proper diagnosis. And before you answer that, Heather, can I just say that I find all these people who are saying, well, there's a huge rise in autism diagnoses these days. That must mean such and such is causing autism. No,
it was always there.
It just means we're now understanding it. I mean, DNA has been around for billions of years, but we only just found out about it in the 1950s. That doesn't mean that we were reproducing some other way. It just means we only just now understand how it works.
Yeah, they changed the testing guidelines, so a lot more people got caught. And they're still working on those because a lot of people still, feel like they're not being diagnosed properly. Usually women, by the way, feel like they don't get diagnosed properly. And that's because we, unless we're lower functioning, we tend not to be disruptive, and people let us get away with that. They don't tend to let boys get away with not participating in classroom activities. And so, at least that's what I've heard. But for me, I was flagged for it really early on. Really, really, really early on. Like I said earlier, basically like kindergarten, first grade, because I was doing, I had a speech impediment. I talk like Sylvester the cat. And I obviously, there was something up because I stimmed a lot. The way that I would interact with other kids was not typical. Like, for example, there's a certain, reciprocity to social interactions, and a lot of the communication that happens is done in a nonverbal way or done via inference. That's like at least 60% of the dialogue I'm not catching, basically, because I don't pick up on any of that stuff. And as I got older, I learned how to pick up on different cues and stuff. But when I was younger, I didn't have that skill set. I didn't even know I needed it. I didn't realize that there was much of anything different from me compared to the other kids. And I didn't realize that for a really long time. And even though they were reacting to me in a way that told me that I was different, because the theory of mind to me came a little bit late, But I think it was basically just one of those things where I kept pursuing it, and I kept asking to get looked at. And I think that's basically what you need to do. But I mean, for me, I got formally diagnosed with PTSD before I got diagnosed with ASD. And oftentimes, if you get a diagnosis of one, they don't even consider the other, because there are so many overlapping symptoms of the two. But I would argue that it's actually, from my point of view, it's probably pretty common that women would have, or people in general on the spectrum would have a higher incidence rate of PTSD because, frankly, sensory overload can traumatize us. So we're a little bit sensitized to traumatic experiences. And furthermore, we don't pick up on social cues that alert other people that they're in potentially dangerous situations. And so we find ourselves often in situations that are not necessarily good for us, because we don't pick up on the signals. All right, I am currently mixing the Scarab color, which y'all know I'm obsessed with. It's a Natasha Denona liquid multi-chrome because we're venturing into Greensville. I started with a little bit of chartreuse. I wanted to add a little bit of this teal that's in here in this Ben Nye palette to it, and I'm currently mixing it with a little bit of the Duraline right now to thin it out a little bit. But I wanted to make it more of like a bluey green, and hopefully it'll still flash really pretty under here. I'll let you go ahead and do the talking, honey, because it's
Brenda is saying in the 1980s, ADHD was the rage. Autistic people were either savant or extremely severely impaired.
Yeah, I think a lot of that mindset persists today.
Kids were forced to fit into the norm round hole. Yeah. That's true. Well, I'm not sure if any of you watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, but there's a great bit whenever, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was A Date with Your Parents. It's one of those
terrible name.
one of those 1950s educational things. How not to annoy your dad after a long day of work, sort of thing. I think it was Mike and the Bots, where every time they gave an instruction on the film, they would always go, conform, conform, conform. Yeah. Oh, yes. Definitely feel that. And, whoops, I'm blocking you. There you go.
Well, what's going on?
Well, I put up a comment
Oh.
and it blocked the exact bit that you were working on.
Sorry.
That's
yeah,
right,
I'm trying to get a little bit of the darker color out on the outer edge because that really light color is going to make all of my crow's feet just stand out. Like, well, we're already working with metallics, so I don't want to set myself up for failure here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let that dry a little bit, then I'll apply a little bit more to the bottom. You can kind of see because this stuff's thinned out. It's a little bit like with oil paints, you know, when you add a little bit of paint thinner, it thins it out. Well, the Duraline will do that a little bit too. It thins out the color, which makes it easier to kind of blend it a little bit. And I'm really trying to take advantage of that because I want a really smooth transition from all these colors.
I seem to have lost the capability to do the Facebook feed from here.
Oh no!
I've been trying to reconnect. I was blocking someone who seemed to be a bit trolly.
Oh, we get those from time to time.
And MST3K woot woot, definitely.
Heck yeah!
But yeah, I was trying to I was trying to block someone who was a bit trolly, and then all Facebook went down.
Oh no!
Somehow, so I don't.
Oh nope! Somebody.
Facebook user is on Facebook.
Yay!
Right. Let me see if I can. Okay. Let me see if I can respond to you. Hello, Facebook user. Nope.
No.
I can't post to Facebook, but
well, you can say whatever your response was.
Okay. I said hello Facebook user because you're just showing up as Facebook user on this. All right. So if you're someone we know, sorry if I'm not calling you by name, but it just says Facebook user here.
Let's see. We've got some really great comments. Let's highlight some of those.
I was going to say. There's a social trade-off. I'm overly assertive or aloof when I have social anxiety or presentations. One-on-one, I can take up too much time emotionally investing in what the patients are going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very relatable. I mean, I love, like, to me, and this is gonna sound so hokey, but my fantasies about like where I want to be in life and what a perfect day looks like to me are so incredibly vanilla. Just so vanilla. Like basically the fantasy version of a dad sweater. It's so vanilla. So basically, Nigel got me a hammock for our anniversary. I've always wanted a hammock, a yard, maybe an umbrella if it's sunny, because, you know, I got to protect all of this. I freckle. You know, a book, maybe some like classical music or some jazz playing, because I'm a music snob, and I know a lot of people say they listen to everything. I do literally listen to everything.
Yes, she does.
I really do. and I don't have perfect pitch, but I have incredibly good relative pitch. I'm not like a savant or anything, but literally if you have a piece of choral music, I can sing literally all the parts. Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm a terrible piano player. I'm not real good on guitar. Like I said, not a savant, because I've tried to learn how to play a whole bunch of instruments and I'm just awful at all of them. But when it comes to singing, like literally all throughout, like I didn't sign up for choir. The choir director actually, okay, this is actually kind of a funny story. I may have told you this, Nigel. I don't know if I did. But okay, remember Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a choir director who was my choir director from when I was in middle school, like 6th grade, and his name is Mr. Kendrick. And Nigel's met Mr. Kendrick because we're still friends, even after all this time. Because my locker in middle school used to be right next to the choir room, so I would listen to them rehearsing. I was not in choir because I didn't have any like confidence at all in my singing ability. But one day, just kind of absent-mindedly, I was singing along. I wasn't singing along. I actually was singing it a cappella into my locker because it was really noisy. and Mr. Kendrick was walking out of his office and he heard me humming and singing. And he was like, you should sign up for choir. And I was like, really? Me? So I signed up for choir, and then I got in, and then he put me right next to him. Like, like my seat was like first chair. I was like right next to him, and he put me on alto 2. So I started off singing alto 2, but I could, every single piece of music he gave me, I would learn every single vocal part, because I was a first in an all girls chorus, and then he moved me into other stuff. I'm letting this dry a little bit, just in case you were wondering what's going on there. I want to see what's going on with my crow's feet with this liquid liner combo before I apply any more makeup. I don't want to cake it on, so I'm intentionally kind of taking a pause from the eye makeup to let that settle. Yeah, so I was basically put in choir, I was put in special groups, I was put in chamber ensembles. I've sung every vocal part with the exception of bass. I've never sung bass, but I have been put on baritone before. I've been put on tenor multiple times. I've been in like 5 different versions of A Mole and the Night Visitor, and I think I've sung every single choral part with the exception of bass. And there were actually parts in competition, for example, when I was on the collegiate level, where we would be, okay, so multiple part harmony, you know, you've got like even like polyphony and stuff going on in some of these pieces. And it was funny because there was this one Moses Hogan song called Elijah Rock or something like that. I forget which one it was, but it was one of the Moses Hogan choral pieces where I think I sang, at one point throughout that song, I got assigned to sing every single vocal part tenor and up, including the, I believe that it's an E in the middle part when it rises. I think that it's a high E above high C. I had to sing that. There have been choral moments where I've had to sing like overtone. So I'm really going on a tangent, and I'm sorry about that. But I think I get that from my grandma. I actually think my grandma might have been on the spectrum, like my dad's mom, because she had similar issues with eye contact. She was similarly like Spock-brained in personality. She did not like to be touched at all. She was like a really, really, really like, don't touch me kind of person, just full stop. And she could play any piece of music on the piano after hearing it just once. She didn't have to sit there and work it out. If you played it for her, and she never learned how to cite or how to read music. So you could play anything for her and she would sit at the piano and she'd be able to play it immediately. Amazing. Left and right hand. Just amazing. I always wish I could do that. I can't, but the equivalent for me is that I can do crazy switcheroos in the music. I can pick up on alto parts and tenor parts really easily. And I have excellent relative pitch. I miss singing. I miss choir a lot because I feel like that was like a whole different vocabulary. And it's one that I really enjoyed because another thing, and this is relevant, I swear, like autistic people in general love rules. I love rules. I love rules. I love knowing what the appropriate thing to do is and is not. I like knowing where people's boundaries are. I like knowing why we're doing what we're doing. You know, like I like all of that information. And choir and theater and those sorts of things, they give you like a script, literally. Like in opera, they give you the libretto and stuff, and you don't have to come up with any of that stuff on the fly. It's all right there. And you know what's going to happen. And it's just, I don't know, the rhyme and reason of it is very soothing to me on a fundamental level. All right, I'm gonna let you talk while I kind of get the next colors ready. I think we're ready to go.
AW says, hanging out at home on my couch with a latte and my knitting is where I want to be every day.
Yeah.
That has been quite convenient this past year.
Yes, it sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Kay says, my son is an Aspie, was diagnosed at age 14, now 33. He's finally beginning to get comfy in his own skin. Grad of a Big Ten university in psych.
Yeah,
wonder why.
That's common. I was a sociology major, so yeah, same diff.
Then cordon bleu, now a head chef. So proud. Oh, head
That's
chef.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's
food.
Amazing.
Food. You get, and on the ground level of food, man, people will love you.
Yeah.
Heather likes when I cook her dinner, so there you go. And Kim says, daily I get people saying, smile. I'm totally content and happy. My face just doesn't know, though.
That's right. That's right. And that's the other thing. Like, it catches people off guard, and it can actually have some pretty dire social consequences when people choose to misinterpret autistic people for real. Because, oftentimes my facial expression does not match what I'm trying to say at all, or how I feel, like, at all. Like, they won't really match 100% of the time. Like, for me, it's about 85%, which is really good. But, if I'm really tired, or if I'm sick, my ability to mask goes right out the window. And then, me naturally, it's anything goes, really. Like, if I'm really, really tired, basically is the facial expression that I tend to make. It's like grumpy cat, but in human form. And it's not that I'm necessarily feeling grumpy, though sometimes I am if I'm really tired or sick or something. But usually it's just, I don't know what my face is doing, and I'm just going through motions. Here I am, like, moving my hands like this the whole time, trying to come up with ways to explain it.
Ugh, the nerve of people ordering other people to smile. Yeah, that does get on my nerves as well, because I've been dealing with depression. And the only thing worse than someone saying, why don't you smile more often, is, well, other people have it worse off than you.
Oh, that makes me feel worse when people say that. Like, I go from feeling bad about myself to feeling bad about everybody.
Yeah.
Which is
thanks. Tell me that story about your friend who had a horrible medical condition. Really, go ahead. That'll cheer me up.
You know what I think? You know what I think it is? I think that those people who say that might just be the kind of people who they might just have a really strong Schadenfreude reflex, maybe. And so knowing that other people feel worse makes them realize the absurdity of life or something. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
I don't think that far ahead. I just think of them as, not giving a damn and just being brought down by someone not smiling all the time.
Well, I don't think
you're making me feel sad. You're not smiling.
Oh my gosh. That, to me, that basically sends the message of, and that is kind of the point. Like, some people want the fake. They want the fake. And if you drop, like, the number one criticism people like to shove down my throat is that they think I'm unprofessional. And I'm like, you guys, people who say that don't realize that I actually kind of agree with that assessment to a certain extent, simply because I'm not striving for what I perceive to be, like, what people usually mean when they say someone's being professional. Because, we all would like to think that that means that people are behaving in an ethical, kind, polished way. But in a lot of cases, it's not always that. Sometimes, people can be, like, I listen to Business Wars, which is a podcast from Wondery. And the theme that comes up over and over again is that, when you are in business, everyone comes in the door saying that they're your friend. Everybody. Just like if you have money, I'm sure it's probably that way too. Or like people come in the door and they're all your best friend or a long lost relative or something like that. And then, part of the goal is to make you feel bad for not immediately warming up to them. But, for me, that's really hard when someone's like, I'm super professional. And then they do that whole dog and pony show, because then I'm like, am I looking at you? Is this like, do you really like me? Or are you just saying that because you're like a vacuum cleaner salesperson and you want me to buy a vacuum, something like that. And it's a lot to handle. I'm sure that that's actually pretty tricky to navigate, even when you're not on the spectrum, even if you're completely normal and there's nothing amiss. I think that that's probably just kind of, it's hard to tell when everyone comes in the door looking like a friend. And for me, I would prefer, like, and this is going to sound so cold probably, but you know what? Like, part of the reason why I embrace free speech, like when people are like crazy and mean on social media and stuff, part of the reason why I kind of embrace it is because it helps me know where the mean people are. Like, it makes it easier to see where they are. It's easier to avoid them when you know who they are. Like, oh, you are clearly a troll. Block. Like, that's clean and easy. It's like the online equivalent of them walking around with a big neon sign on their head that says, "Don't talk to me, I'm toxic." That is like a gift when people do that. What I struggle with is when, you know, they act like butter wouldn't melt in their mouths, and then, you know, they blindside you, and then you're like, whoa, 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 when did this happen?
Yeah.
Weren't we just friends like 2 minutes ago?
Mm-hmm.
When you wanted stuff from me? So I'm now mixing some Pat McGrath colors, and don't worry, I'll let you go in a second. I just want to tell people what I'm mixing. Basically equal parts, these two colors, the VR Emerald and the, what do you call, Blitz Aquamarine from this Pat McGrath palette. As you probably are aware, I'm obsessed with this little Blitz Astral Quad palette, and it's got a great green in it and a great turquoise. The light didn't want to cooperate. So I'm just mixing them together. Go ahead, honey.
AW says, yes, rules are great. I love detailed lists of responsibilities.
Heck yeah.
It's terrible when you get a boss who takes advantage of that and pins their mistake on you if they tell you the wrong protocol. That happened to me when I worked at a telecommunications company in my hometown many, many years ago. They were the biggest employer in the district. They were hiring hundreds of people every week. And they put you on 3 months trial period if they decide to keep you on. And I joined up, I think it was in October. And in the course of that, I had, if you ever watched Office Space, I had 3 bosses in that time. And I would be doing what one boss told me to do, and then the other one would come along and said, but I told you to do this. I said, yeah, but so-and-so told me this. Well, you're supposed to do this.
Oh, my.
And then the next thing. And so guess what? 3 months trial period came up, and they decided they didn't want me anymore. So they sacked me. And then 2 weeks after that, they started sacking several hundred people because they were about to go out of business.
It seems like they were basically just begging for reasons to get rid of people because they couldn't afford the payroll.
Well, it's that, and after a while they couldn't. After the first batch of 700 people, they couldn't just keep up the charade anymore, and then they just started sacking like thousands of people in one go.
Yeah.
And then seriously, they ended up sacking like 8,000 within like 3 months. There were 8,000 people in my home district looking for work all at the same time. So yeah, that was a pain in the neck.
Yeah, I have kind of mixed feelings because I've been on the employee side of this at one time or another, and I've also been on the like the person in charge end of things. And I've tried it both ways, where like we just sacked people without any warning, which always feels really, really mean. And then we've also tried letting people know in advance that there was an issue and that, hey, these are the things that need to be improved. That almost never goes well either, though.
Yeah.
That almost never goes well, because then those people end up being like really resentful. So I have yet to figure out the best way of handling that. But it sounds like the people you used to work for didn't even bother. Like they didn't care enough to actually like want to try to see what would actually be like the least offensive and detrimental to you.
No, the worst problem is I was like one of the first batch. There's like about 120 people on the day that I got laid off that also got laid off. And that was the first batch, and it was like the largest batch they'd ever had up to that point. And then once that batch had done, the next week they started sacking more people, and like 700-800 at a time. And then, but the thing is, they were still hiring. Oh, there was one guy who he made it onto the news. He was hired 1 week, and then the very next week he was sacked.
And England has way different labor laws. Like it's not like a place where here in Georgia, for example, it's a right to work state. So technically I wouldn't have to give anybody notice if I wanted to let them go, though I typically do. Because like I said, I tried it the other way and it just seems mean. Like I try to prefer to work with people if possible.
That whole term right to work is just a poison chalice. That's
the kind of euphemism I struggle with as
oh, look, there's a beautiful golden cup with wine in it. Oh, no, it's poisoned.
Yeah. Oh, for me, it's like I struggle with black and white thinking. So I basically, you know, it's hard for me not to be super cynical about anything that has that kind of label attached.
Mm.
Like anytime a politician is trying to sell me on something, I'm not really inclined to think that it's good for me, I guess.
In sports med, coaches said I should be one of the guys and don't be so serious. It was a high price to pay. I had to ask getting in tune when a kid passed gas in order to gain acceptance.
Oh, goodness.
And this is a good one. Tammy says, can you please explain what masking is?
Masking, well, a lot of people call it camouflaging, but it's essentially a suppression of symptoms. So in my case, you know, one of the things that I'm going to challenge myself with in the future is trying to unpeel, like, where, you know, the limits of my autism are and, you know, when the masking really kicks in. Because, for example, you know, when I was a little kid, I used to stim a lot. And I used to flap a lot, and I used to never be able to look people in the eye when I was talking. Like that is masking. Me looking directly into the camera right now is a deliberate masking behavior. This is not comfortable, okay? But looking at people in the eye when I'm talking to them is even more uncomfortable, right? Right now, it's just the perception that somebody else is looking directly in my eyes, which is not quite as bad. But then when I get out in real life and we're actually hanging out together, you know, the more tired I become, or if you get a couple drinks in me, the more I'll start staring at the floor. That sort of thing. You know, my eyes will start darting around the room and they'll meet everything but your gaze, because I lose the ability to mask the more I relax. And so because this is a deliberate thing that I'm doing to try to put people at ease, that is a really clear indication of a masking behavior. Another clear indication is that, you know, I've taught myself to no longer have echolalia. That took several years, but I used to kind of whisper or mouth things that people had just said. It's not something I was doing deliberately, though people, when they interpret it that way, they think you're being really rude. So that clearly was something that I had to get a grip on, but it took a really long time. I had a speech impediment, so speaking like this is kind of a form of masking in and of itself. You know, a lot of the paralanguage that I put into my speech, such as the ums and the pauses and things like that, these are things that I had to learn in a secondary fashion because my natural inclination is to speak like a little college professor. So when I was a little kid, I got picked on constantly because when you're around really insecure adolescents, they're inclined to believe that you are showing off when you talk like that. And unfortunately, I was not showing off. It's that I learned language by reading kind of, you know, adult books, you could say, and like hardcore literature and things that were not really appropriate for my age group, and things that my parents wouldn't have even been interested in, you know, like The Economist.
That was a good magazine.
It is a good magazine. Like, very dense, has a lot of words. I'm all about it.
Good science
I
section.
read the thesaurus for fun, the dictionary for fun.
I used to do that, but then I used to participate in spelling bees.
Like, I thought this was cool. Like, I'm learning these languages. This is all really sweet. But then I realized that other people, especially in my peer cohort, would just make fun of me mercilessly. And the fact that my teachers really liked me and that my guidance counselors really liked me because I would prefer their company over the company of my peers. And I would prefer to talk to them sometimes in ways that in hindsight were kind of inappropriate because I was talking to them as if I were like a 30-year-old woman back when I was like 9, 10, 11.
I used to do that with dinosaurs when I was a kid. I would, you know, like most kids, I was obsessed with dinosaurs, but, you know, I'm not just, my favorite is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. No, I would know Velociraptor, I would know Brachiosaurus, I would know Altis Spinax, and all these other things that most of these kids have ever heard of. And
I've never heard of that.
Do you like dinosaurs? Yeah, I love dinosaurs. My favorite is the Baryonyx, you know, and it was discovered in 1983 by William Walker. And I'd go on like that, and their eyes would glaze, their 6-year-old eyes would glaze over. I don't like dinosaurs so much anymore. You're making it not fun. I just want to go raw and stomp things.
Yeah.
AW says, my embarrassment level about being asked to cut up around patients is not because I think higher of myself, but that I have worked hard to avoid anything that could be perceived as unprofessional.
Right.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword be one of the team, but be ultra professional. But, you know, be a laugh and make up your mind. What is it? Do you want me to be professional, or do you want me to be a card?
Yeah, honestly, that the whole professionalism archetype does not really make for a great sense of humor. It's impossible to have like a really, really, really funny conversation, I think, with people who take themselves too seriously. Like most of my favorite comedians are the ones who make themselves the butt of the joke and do it really, really well, to the point where you don't feel sorry for them. You're just like, yeah, that is funny. You are bald, or whatever
Richard
they
Pryor.
do. Yeah.
Excellent example.
Like I like to feel that way about you know, my hair loss, my problems. Like I would much rather just sit there and poke fun at myself. But when I do that, people think that that the response is to go, oh, well, no, it's fine, you know, and they think that I'm being down on myself. Because I guess when most neurotypical women do that, they want reaffirmation that, you know, what they're saying isn't true. And I'm like, even when I was a big girl, you know, when I was almost 300 pounds, I used to call myself fat, and people be like, "Oh no, it's not that bad." And be like, "Girl, yes, I am in fact a fat person. That doesn't mean I'm ugly. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I am larger than you." And now I'm just like, that's how I used to be. But you know, I still have, you know, a big bone structure and flappy skin and stuff. And like, I talk about this, and it's not because I want people to go, "Oh no, it's beautiful anyway."
It just is.
It just is. Like there's no weight to it. If anything, I find it amusing. I'm like a flying squirrel. It's like my superpower. Ooh. At least people know I lost weight, right? Like it's not hard to sell people on that, and I'm just gonna like wave at them. Oh man. Oh wow. Oh, and I did tell people what I was mixing. Okay, good.
Yeah. But yeah, look at all these comments from people like Terry saying, "My mind goes blank when I look in people's eyes, in one ear and out the other, but not always." And AW affirms with, "Yes, around authority especially." Yeah. And Kim says, "Yes, Miss Know-It-All that doesn't smile." I honestly don't know what goes through some people's heads, because I've lived in Malaysia and England and the USA.
And you think you're not interesting.
Well, no, here's the thing. I've lived in quite a few places around the world. I've traveled quite a bit. Not as much as some people, but a lot more than some other people, put it that way. And the way some people look at life is just so incredibly narrow, and
it's so confining.
Exactly. It's narrow and blinkered and ridiculously confining. And you know, so what if someone thinks a different way? If they're a nice person and they're good at something, let them do that. If they don't like sports, so what? If they're good at making swords, or you know, cooking, or listening to people and understanding where they're coming from.
That's right.
Let them do that.
That's right.
All this, you have to conform this exact way, but be your own person, but you have to do it this way.
Yeah, no. From a philosophical standpoint, I feel your exasperation, honey, for sure. Because I think one of the ways I think about this is like, okay, women are smart, right? And we are capable of making decisions for ourselves. This is not news to anybody, I think, watching this. But for a really long time, it's like the whole of society prior to like 1950 pretended that women just could not think of anything that important. You know, just go cook, go clean the house, you know, that sort of thing. And that's harder work than people, I think, gave it credit for too. Like there are just so many aspects of that people understood and understand the importance of and then downplay, you know? And women for a really long time were complicit in that for themselves. So I would like to say, philosophically, I think that, you know, homemaking is a job. It's totally a job. If you do it well, it's a hard job. So especially if you got a bunch of little kids and stuff, I have a lot of respect for that. I also have a lot of respect for the fact that women are very intelligent, and I swear this has a point, and that our untapped potential has really limited the development of the human species. Like, think of all the technological advancements that we would have now compared to where we are now, even though things are pretty awesome right now. Think about how much further we'd be if women were given an earlier pathway to, I'm just cleaning my brushes in between colors.
Hedy Lamarr invented Wi-Fi.
I mean,
didn't she?
seriously, and she couldn't get her ideas taken seriously at all. You know, Clara Schumann was probably a more proficient composer of women's lieder than her husband Robert, and yet she didn't get as much attention, even though she did for her piano playing, because it was more acceptable for a woman to be a pianist and to tour. But she had to give that up when she had her kids. I love classical music, so sorry for that little biography there. But you know what I mean? Like, think of how much further along we would all be. And I feel that way about autistic people and people with different abilities. I feel that way about people with depression and any number of things. Like, if society invested in learning about us and how to accommodate everybody, and to be sensitive and to want to be sensitive to that for the sake of learning, you know, not just assume that we're doing it because we want special treatment, but maybe in some cases, some folks need some kind of special treatment, and that in giving it to them, we might be able to unlock potential or information about ourselves as people. You know, we could be further along if we didn't suppress that by trying to urge everybody to do everything the same way at the same time. I think that not only is that really stifling of creativity, but it also stifles all of us culturally and our ability to actually rise above some of these challenges. Boy, that sounded like a political stump speech.
Liz says, and if they were paid dollar for dollar with men.
For sure, absolutely. And I've heard people say that that's basically like the mommy tax, but that happens even when you don't have kids. Like, you're still paid less.
Oh yeah, what is it? I was saying, I saw a picture on the Facebooks a while back. It was like a big bulk dry goods section at a supermarket. It had trail mix for men and trail mix for women, and they seemed to have exactly the same ingredients, but the trail mix for women was like 50 cents more expensive. Because it was for women. It had pink M&Ms in it or something ridiculous like that. Kathy says, I totally get it, because people seem to have an issue with telling the truth, and I just flat out tell people how I see it. People don't like the truth, Kathy. I've learned that the hard way myself.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it when I tell people something bluntly and they have a bad reaction to it. And then I'm very quick to go like, oh, that's me. I did something. What did I do? And I'll frankly just ask them sometimes, what did I do? Can you tell me? And I think that takes people aback sometimes, because then they're like, what, you didn't do that on purpose? Because then it becomes harder for them to be mad at you and to take it personally, because they realize that you didn't do it on purpose. But, you know, if they're really, really, really married to wanting to be mad at you, they will continue to ignore the fact that you want to get better, and you're asking them to tell you, you know what you should apologize for, so you can, right?
And then AAW continues that theme, saying, yes, getting called negative all the time. Some of us thrive on constructive criticism because we are perfectionists. Yeah, if I do something wrong, I'd like to be told so I don't do it again.
That's right.
And lead to more annoyances.
That's absolutely right. That's how I feel, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just weird, I guess. But I mean, some people get really, really bent out of shape if you tell them things like, no, you can't stick your hand in fire. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
No, you know, don't drink and drive. Wear a seatbelt. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
End up with blunt force trauma, for Pete's sake. Jeez.
No, I hear you for sure. By the way, I'm mixing 2 more colors because I want to keep the show on the road. I mixed this really dark blue with some of this Twin Flames Multichrome Pigment by Danessa Myrix. And this color is called Amore. It's called Amore. It's got kind of a purpley undertone to it. We're probably going to be mixing this with the purple too, but first I'm going in with this blue.
I'm not going to put this up on the screen because it'll cover up exactly what you're doing, but Liz says women's health insurance is often 30% higher for men for the exact same treatment. Yeah, we all know that kind of treatment. You're what? Oh, just go home and lose some weight and take some pain pills and stop bothering me.
Oh, you're just depressed.
Not that I'm bitter.
That's another thing too. You're just depressed. That's why everything hurts, and you're not having periods and all this other stuff. I've heard that, and I've got a very I've been very open about the fact that my maternal grandmother passed away from SLE, which is kind of lupus, because they told her that she was depressed, and in fact her lupus was destroying her kidneys. But they saw a woman.
Oh, she's just being hysterical.
She's just depressed.
She's just being hysterical.
Yeah, they thought she was like a depressed anorexic when in fact she was like a malnourished person with lupus who couldn't eat because her kidneys were shutting down.
Now, I want to point out that there are very good doctors out there.
Yeah.
However, sometimes it's just running up against a brick wall.
Yeah, and if you think that you're not, if you think you're getting a raw deal and that your doctors aren't paying attention to you, definitely get a second opinion or a third if you need it. Like, don't feel ashamed about that. You're not being disloyal to your doctor. You're being loyal to yourself.
Oh, Kim says a plus with COVID, smiley face masks. I'm loving it. Great.
Yeah.
You don't have to smile. You just puts it right. Good idea.
That's right. I actually love the masks. I love wearing them to the gym, even though it's hard to work out because then people can't see all the ways that I'm like grimacing because I hate working out.
And AW says, oh, don't get me started on being at home full-time with kids after being the breadwinner for years. And now that he's done working full-time, the man gets overwhelmed with only one child on his way off.
I've heard that story from people before. I think you're in good company there. In fact, when I was, we were saying that somebody's son is getting a doctorate in psychology. My bachelor's, the first degree I got was in sociology, and that's a common thing with people who are on the higher end of the spectrum. We're very fascinated with the stuff that we don't pick up on organically. So for me, I'm very fascinated by social interactions and how groups interact with each other and that sort of dynamic. So that's why I like sociology. There are a lot of sociology textbooks that talk at great length about that kind of gendered role in the family and how it's just really hard to shake. Even when the economics of it don't play out in the modern world or for an individual family, people will still try to revert to type, even if it's not functional.
Right. Stacy says, I've had a physician tell me before I had children that I would feel better if I had children and had something to think about instead of myself. Where did you meet this guy? 1653?
Oh my goodness.
Yeesh.
I mean, maybe instead of jumping to you should have a kid, maybe he should advocate that you get like a dog. You know, like if all you need is something to look after other than yourself, you could do that with a pet frog, you know, or a house plant.
Oh,
get an aquarium and put it in your living room. Like that's a far leap of logic to be like, yep, you need a kid. Yeah. Like, wow.
Instantly. Yes.
Wow. Just wow, for sure.
If you feel depressed now, that postpartum thing will be no problem for you at all. I know this because I'm a man.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and that's another thing I think people should feel it's okay to talk about a little bit more openly when they experience postpartum depression and issues like that. Like, and then how are people supposed to know to get help if they don't say that there's something wrong?
Yeah, that's terrible.
So I'm gonna mix up another couple of colors. I'm really excited about this combination. So let me get it on here and then I'll tell you what it is. Because this was the purple that I came up with. It took a lot of... Can you hold up that little piece of fake skin again so they can see how many times I tried to make a purple?
Short answer, lots of times.
Lots of times. Lots of times. And it was not... It was not easy because there are so many different varieties of purple, and not all of them wanted to play nicely with the others.
Kathy says, I also like the mask only because I feel like I'm invisible and no one can see me when I'm out grocery shopping.
Yeah, that's kind of nice too.
Oh, if people, I get annoyed with shopping because people are such inconsiderate jerks. half the time. I honestly feel I would love to go
Tell me how you really feel, honey.
I honestly would love to have a whole palette of Mortal Kombat ninja masks. And just, you know, someone's being a jerk, I ram them in the back of the ankles with a shopping cart.
Please don't do that.
No.
Please don't do that in real life.
Ermac wins.
Okay, yay! It's purple. It's purple. I'm making it purple. So,
Heather likes purple. In case
I
you
really,
can't
really,
tell.
really like purple a lot. Okay, so this.
Oh, Mimo's back. Hi, Mimo.
This is the Natasha Denona Chromium Liquid Color in Ultraviolet. I have the whole set. I bought them on a special. I bought every one of her liquid chromatic colors. I also mixed in some Pat McGrath, whatever this purple one is that's in the C3PO palette.
Every time you bring that one out, I keep thinking, I am fluent in over 6 million forms of eyeshadow.
Well, he's one of us. Yeah. But then I also put just a teeny little bit of the Cosmic Cabaret from the Escape Pod in there. I mean, I'm just mixing all the purples in. I also put a little bit of this purple, which is in that.
Sorry, I blocked it by Michelle Moffat saying purple.
That's right, purple. This is the Blitz Astral Quad palette again.
Show that again because I accidentally covered it up.
Oh. Woo!
That purple.
I use this quad a lot because these two colors over here are outrageously beautiful, but this purple that I don't use that often is actually really, really stunning too. And I also threw in a little bit of that Danessa Myrix that I used with the blue as well, because most multi-chrome purples have a black base to them, and we're going with bright colors, like shiny, happy colors. We're not going for like dark colors. So even this purple, I wanted to make sure that it was like a nice, bright, vibrant, metallic purple, almost like a violet more than a purple itself.
Michelle says, "Ooh, what do you think of the Natasha Denona liquid?"
I really like her chromium shades a lot. I have not tried the liquid chroma colors yet. But I do really like the chromium shades a lot. I did not give myself a whole heck of a ton of space to work with, but we will make it happen.
Bye, guys. Got to go to work, says Kim. Thanks for dropping by,
yes,
Kim.
Yes, thank you, Kim.
Feel free to drop by anytime. How do they compare to Stila? Have you tried those, says Michelle?
I have not. I am down for trying basically anything that's flashy or has some sparkle, though. So if you have any recommendations, I would absolutely love to know them. Because yeah, I love flashy colors. Like I literally just talked myself out of buying the Circo Loco palette from Natasha Denona. Because I mean, it's happy clown colors, which are basically some of my favorites. But I figured I had so many palettes that I should really just play with the ones I have a little bit more.
Funny, you mentioned happy clowns, Heather. Why is all this quote-unquote fear of clowns on internet a real thing, or is it just people doing the same thing like they do with the word moist? They say they hate it because it's fashionable to say they hate it.
Maybe it's in response to like Pennywise or John Wayne Gacy or that whole thing.
I never met Pennywise. Pennywise is fictional, and John Wayne Gacy is no longer an option these days. So
yeah, but I mean, he's still part of like the
pop culture.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go over here. Now, one thing about these kind of chromatic colors, particularly the ones that are kind of like liquid, is that they can look really cakey. So my hope is that this Duraline stuff will actually thin it out enough so it doesn't look all crazy in my corners here. And we'll clean all this up. I haven't put that much concealer or anything on yet, so we will clean it all up.
Michelle says she'll send you some.
Ooh, that would be delightful. Yes, I will give you a full report.
It's so addictive, though, she says.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff. I love experimenting. Even if it doesn't work out, it's still more entertaining. Because, I mean, I love what you do with your makeup, Michelle. Like in your profile pic, it's amazing. Like I love people who take risks when it comes to stuff like this. And I've noticed that a lot of YouTubers, I was mentioning this yesterday, who are like my age, because I'm 40, and they gear their stuff towards like a plus 40 crowd, the look that they do is beautiful. They look fantastic, but it's always the same look, like over and over again. It's always like, you know, very minimalistic, very natural, very subdued, everyday kind of looks. And I want to be a unicorn every day. I want to be a fairy princess every day. I don't want to just look like myself every day. That's not as much fun as doing all this other stuff sometimes.
3 rapid fire ones from Michelle. Oh, that went by too quickly.
Yeah, I'll let you handle it because I'm doing this inner corner and it's tricky.
Here we go. Michelle says, dubious place as well. Have you tried those?
Yes, I have. I have the Nubian and I believe the Warrior 3.
Nubian,
palettes.
Very nice. Star Wars gag there. I'm planning a package, Michelle says.
Oh, that's fantastic!
And
Thank
it's the
you.
best way to learn is just to have fun.
That's right. That's right. Well, because some of the stuff is messy enough and pricey enough that if you didn't actually enjoy it, just why? When you could watch other people do it.
Stacy says you look a lot younger than 40.
Thank you. I give a lot of credit to a very hardcore skincare routine and the fact that I live my life like a vampire. If I go out in the sun, I'm wearing sunblock.
I just don't go out in the sunlight. I don't tan, I burst into flames.
But yeah, ever since I was a little kid, I actually think I have, hold on, I might be able to actually find this on my phone because I was looking the other day and I was like, wait, I didn't even know I had this image on my phone, but it's like from a really, really, really long time ago, from when I was like a little kid.
Well, Michelle says, I think your awesome brand wigs inspire fun makeup.
I should come out with a makeup collection. People were mentioning that earlier because I think
a Moon Kitty palette.
We should come up with a palette so I don't have to mix all these crazy rainbow colors to come up with a rainbow.
There you go. Pre-mixed in a pot.
Yeah. Okay. I must have taken it off because I don't. Oh, here it is. No, I found it. Okay. Good. All right. So this may turn to a different orientation, but it did.
It did.
Dang. All right, but. Okay, I'm sideways, but this is me, and I'm almost as white as my shirt. And this is back before my hair started falling out. I was about 14. So you can see I look like an adult, even as a kid, because the PCOS, I came of age really quickly. So 14, and I was already almost full size. You know, as far as like growth spurt and everything, and I'm almost as white as my shirt. So.
AW says, my grandfather's second wife had a clown collection room, sheer terror. Well, you look at some of those old toys, I mean, even old Mickey Mouse toys, they are friggin' nightmare fuel.
I think you just answered your own question then. I think maybe
that's fair enough.
Maybe a lot of kids were traumatized by toy clowns, and then they wrote things like Stephen King's It, and it just kind of reinforced it. I think that's almost done. I might want to put a little bit more purple on, just a little bit, because I like it. I want to be real careful. I just think it's a little heavier on the other side than this one.
I'm going to read this out instead of post it because it would cover up what you're doing. Whenever I wear my Ambrose and my jeweled peacock, I feel like I have to do some awesome makeup to match the awesome hair, says Michelle.
Hooray!
Kathleen says, I'm wearing my Moonlit Orchid R Honor today. And
Yay!
I'm almost 62, just saying.
I'm so happy. I love hearing stories like that because that's kind of like what I live for, is to help people kind of like embrace that kind of stuff a little bit more. Because it's so freeing to just like not, I mean, it sounds so cliche and kind of like flip, but you know, it is kind of liberating to not care so much about people not liking what you're doing. Because like there are going to be people, like there's a Dr. Seuss quote that's like, the people who matter won't mind and the people who mind won't matter, or something like that.
Yes.
I probably butchered it, but.
Oh, Stacy says old-fashioned Easter bunnies could be horrifying. No wonder kids screamed in their laps. Why did they make them look evil? Oh, Stacy, I've seen some of those pictures. Yeah, good old-fashioned nightmare fuel, that stuff. Oh, horrific. Even some of the Santas, like, they wouldn't just get a guy and stick a fake beard on him. He'd have, like, a paper-mache face as well with squinty, with squinty eyes and, like, blood-red cheeks and a leer. Oh, horrific.
All right, I'm going to clean up the edges just a little bit. I'm not going to go super crazy with it because I'm going to apply some concealer and stuff, but I'm not even using makeup remover. This is literally just moisture surge spray, but just to clean up a little bit of the glitter that fell down here and outside of this little area. And I'm now realizing I should have plucked my eyebrows a little bit better, but whatever. Uh-oh, now you gotta say what it is.
Stacey says, yeah, those Santas with dark circles under their eyes and Saw makeup. Oh, yes.
All right, I went a little crazy with the purple and I kind of covered up some of the red, but whatever, I like it anyway.
Well, Michelle says, Heather, I'm recreating this look. You look so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm having a blast with it. It's taken forever, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to take a little bit of this red that's in this palette and just kind of cover up over that. Oh, that did it. That did it. There we go. Now we're getting to rainbow. Because that was hard making the first color blend in with the last one. The last one just kind of covered it up because it was already dry.
Michelle says, I'll be hashtagging you everywhere.
I love it. I love it.
Sorry, I need to calm down. I'm too excited. Well, are you having fun? That's the main thing.
That's right. Here, how many times, like, good thing that's not a drinking game. How many times is Heather gonna flash the bingo wings in excitement? Woo!
I've been drinking all day.
I'm out of tea. Like, I feel like I should go into the next room just to grab some more, but we're almost done with this. I'm just gonna stick with it.
You've got your untouched pink water here.
Yay! Good. All right, because all this talking is dehydrating.
I'm familiar with that.
All right, so on the upper part of the eye, this is gonna be super easy. I'm just gonna go white. I'm just going to use the white in this Ben Nye palette.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ben Nye. I was thinking of Bill Nye. Bill Nye, the science guy, eye makeup collection.
Yeah, let's not do that. As far as I've heard, his reputation is not faring too well in the internet age. I don't know. I tried watching his, I think it was a Netflix show, and I couldn't get into it. And usually I like things that are kind of like kids pastiche for adults. It was just a little jarring. It was like trying a little too hard to have it both ways for me. Okay, let's see what we got going on here.
Michelle asks, how is the Ben Nye?
It's all right. Like, it's you know, my preference obviously would have been to have like the as I mentioned, this is kind of a dupe for the editorial brights from Viseart. I would rather have that. It has a better formula. This formula is very dry, but it's more like pressed pigment. It's very, very strong, which is why I didn't have to put much of that red on there, and it just kind of made the rest of it pop. But yeah, if I would have had that other palette, I probably would have used it instead. But you know, I figured I already had this one. And that's why I haven't bought the other one, because I'm like, I already have a really bright palette that I can use that's basically pressed pigment, and I'm going to use it up before I buy a replacement for it. Got to be kind of responsible, or else I'm just going to end up owning everything. And it's already getting to like ridiculous levels.
You're doing an awesome job, Heather. So pretty, says Kathleen.
Thank you. I got to put my mascara on. That's going to be the real challenge here. I want this to be really nice and bright.
And Michelle says, do you have the Viseart? Don't buy it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Do not let Nigel, do not let her buy it.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, the Ben Nye works pretty well. I've used a color from that palette for every single one of these. In today's look, I used it as kind of like a pigment to blend in with the multi-chromes to basically make the rest of it kind of go poof. And it's worked out pretty well. Let me get a light on here real quick. This is like a soft white light, so it might make it look a little warm, but I'll just kind of hold still here for a second.
Now, if you open your eyes real wide, you'll look like a problem with a Mac computer.
What? They got to be spinning more.
Hold still.
No. Oh gosh, the beach ball of death.
Carla says, I was terrified of the Easter Bunny. I love my mask. Purple is my favorite color. I'm 74 and wear lilac and pink wigs. I found my tribe. Welcome, Carla.
Yes, and I love the wig you're wearing there. Is that one of
looks
ours?
A bit familiar.
Yeah, the color's great. I hope it's one of ours because I just said the color's great. If not, it's still really cool looking on you. You know, I own wigs that I don't sell. I've even made a whole live stream about that. So.
Oh, Kathleen says, I always like, I'm going to cover up what you're doing. But she says, I always liked makeup, and a couple of times in college 30 years ago, someone told me I wore too much makeup and they like natural. Dude, bad way to make a pass at a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he hit on somebody that wears natural looking makeup then?
Yeah. And then they say, oh, I like the natural look. Then they see people without makeup and, oh, you should wear makeup.
Yeah, I know you're not a real big fan of Amy Schumer, but she has a pretty hilarious bit.
No.
Where it's like a fake boy band.
No, I did like that. That was amusing.
They're like, girl, put on some makeup. Lots and lots of makeup. Think like a clown, then work your way back.
Yeah. That is, credit where credit's due. That is a funny bit.
Yeah, for sure. I got a little bit of mascara up in here, so I'm just trying to cover that up lazily.
Michelle says there's no such thing as too much. I'm going to disagree with you on one point there. Whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Oh, yeah, okay. If done for cinematic effect, yes. Yeah. But even then it wasn't too much because Betty Davis knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she was purposefully made it like that to make it look purposefully.
Well, she was
jarring.
A little bit too young looking to really bring that effect home naturally. She was like, whatever, I've got this. I'm gonna Lon Chaney this. And she did. She looked terrifying. That's a great movie though.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. She says, you guys are so awesome.
Well, thank you.
And Andrea F says, oh gosh, I thought I'd missed you. I had my Zolair injections today, so now just resting and I'll enjoy watching with everyone. Win-win. Well, thank you, Andrea. Glad you could make it. And yes. Don't worry, these are always on a replay on YouTube. So.
And we do read all the comments too. So if you comment on the replay, don't think that we're somehow tuning those out.
Yeah,
Nigel in particular is right on top of those.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I mean, sometimes the comments come so fast and furious, I miss some. So if I don't respond to you directly, either speaking to you or typing in the comments, it's not because it's not an intentional snub. It's just sometimes a lot of comments come in at the same time.
Right, but it's a good problem. It means
yeah.
People are enjoying talking to each other and us, which is basically the whole reason why we do this. Which, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Liz, because this is all actually Liz's brainchild in a certain way, because she was the one that was really emphatic that we need to do more live streams, and so message received in spades. Very
Carla's
received.
Carla's wearing Felix.
Oh, that's fantastic! Hooray! That makes you feel even better.
Michelle says, Heather, what is that long wig up there with the pink and waves and cuteness?
Oh, this one. I've mentioned this one in the past before. This is one that we don't carry, but you can still buy it. It's made by Zuri Sis, and I believe it's called Sundance. I believe that this wig is called Sundance. And this is one of the color combinations they came out with for Pride. I don't know if they still offer it, but I'm pretty sure they do. I think this was really, really popular for Pride not last year, but before the world stopped turning. This was a really popular one. And I'm almost too afraid to wear her because she's so pretty as set dressing and she's heat friendly. So I'm almost convinced that if I wear her, she's gonna become a matted mess like that. But I still love it. It looks great back there.
Speaking of pink and rainbow colors, just wait till you see this, Michelle.
Oh, what's going on? Oh, the holographic blonde.
Holographic blonde.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my brow brush, which I must have hid someplace. I'll just use this one. Okay. And all right. I usually have like a dedicated brow brush just to fill some stuff in, but I can't figure out what I did with it.
Michelle's saying, okay, that's fab. I'll wait for you to have some long wavy to buy loads. Well, Michelle, we've got some in development.
Yes, I actually was flirting with one called Trinity, and she's 30 inches.
Oh yeah,
and she's curled. She's a little bit curlier than that one, actually.
Yeah, 30 inches, tight not quite ringlety curls, but sort of wavy curls. And didn't you have her in mermaid kisses?
Oh, well, I am going to potentially make her in that color because the long wigs look fantastic in that color. But let me see if I can pull up a picture really quick, because I took pictures the other day of Trinity outside in in Aniston foil, which is kind of like a bronze color. Because I wanted to like get an image outside with the makeup I did on Monday, because it looked really, really, really popping outside. Let me see if I can find it. By the way, this is what yesterday's makeup looked like. Here's me taking, I mean, this is not the greatest picture, but this is what the makeup turned out like, very soft yesterday. And that's Callista in Ravens and Roses. We'll be putting all this up probably on Instagram. It's just a matter of me finishing taking all the images and Nigel getting them up on Insta. But I take a ton of pictures every time I do this. Okay, check out the side view of Monday's look. I'm gonna zoom in. I'm so happy with my blending that day because it was all on camera and it looks so much better outside than it did indoors. Oh my gosh, that's the cerulean color. I've got makeup like all over my hands. I should probably wipe that off. But this is what Trinity looks like. She's so long that like I should have broke out the selfie stick because it was a real contortion trying to like get the image to take. But yeah, she's phenomenal. And I did take a little bit of a video where I was like walking, because I try to do that for all of these just to get an idea of how they move. So yeah, the hair moved really well. It's just, I was like, how am I supposed to do this with this phone in my hand? I just wanted to keep playing with it and swishing it around. And then of course it would get stuck in my lip gloss and I was like, gah. But yeah, beautiful. I'm so happy with how that wig's turning out. I'm still waiting for confirmation from the factory, by the way, about the lace, because I wanted them to be able to taper because this is a lace front wig, this prototype. And the edge is a little crispy over here. To me, I wish it could be a little bit more tapered, kind of like with most of the brands that I carry here. So we're going to see if they can do that. If they can't, I'm still going to make them anyway. I'll just make sure I disclose and probably make a video about how to trim it if it's bothersome. But when I was wearing these outside, for example, I hardly noticed, aside from in the darker colors. So yes, these are Wigs Forever prototypes, and the difference between Wigs Forever and the CysterWigs Limited line is that CysterWigs Limited is like fashion wigs and they're heat friendly, whereas the Wigs Forever line, for the moment at least, they're all 100% like regular synthetic. They're a little bit more durable, and that's why the longer styles, I'm going to try to really focus on regular synthetic because they'll last a little longer.
Yeah, we're just getting them finalized, Michelle. So once Heather's happy with it, then
yes.
Then we'll pull the trigger on getting some laid in.
Absolutely, and I've been very open here since we started this project, and behind the scenes and in front of the camera. And I just want to reiterate, like, once we get a handle on what to supply and what to keep in stock, and we can kind of get a feel for that rhyme and the reason of it, we would love to actually like make some connections with folks who are also small business owners and see if they would like to carry these. But I want to focus predominantly on like established small players who want to keep it small, because that's where I'm at with it too. And I've found that one thing that is super helpful when you're a small business is having something special, because it's very hard to compete with the marketing budgets and all that stuff coming from the bigger stores. But if you have something that only smaller stores can have, then it kind of like incentivizes people to go to smaller stores, which I think is something that would benefit a lot of us small business owners. So it's definitely something I would very much like to do, and I would love to work with you, Michelle, because you know I love you. You're just a doll, and I really enjoy talking to you both here in the stream and off camera. You're just a very nice person, and I appreciate that a lot. Plus, I love your tattoos. I love your images of your tattoos. I'm still in awe of your head tattoo. I don't know how you did that, but I still kind of want one. But yeah, it's totally badass. I appreciate all of it. All right, so let me finish this up. I already have a little bit of foundation on, and the sponge is still a little damp. So I got a little bit of fallout down here. So I'm going to just try to see if the residual moisture on the sponge can kind of help me get that back into place without me having to apply more product.
Yeah, I think Michelle is all for that idea.
Yeah, no, that would be totally awesome.
Kathleen seconds it.
Especially since she looks so cool and all the cool colors.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Anybody who likes the jewel peacock is a friend of mine, because that is a crazy color and it's amazing. and I would love to expand colors like that. I love crazy bright happy colors, obviously. Let's see. I don't really want to go too heavy with any more product because I don't want it to look super cakey and distracting. So I think I'm just going to put a little bit of powder on in a kind of strategic way.
Strategic powder.
Strategic powder placement, baby. Strategic
powder sounds like an album title.
What's the band name?
Oh, maybe it's the band name. Strategic powder.
So if
Thank you, Cleveland. We are Strategic powder.
Oh goodness. All right. I'm gonna.
That's what they called cocaine back in the 80s.
Strategic powder.
Strategic powder. No, I'm joking. I don't know. I'm making that up. Sarcasm, Heather. Joking.
See, we just had a 2.5 hour live stream where I was like, you know, I don't get sarcasm, and you're all like, sarcastic.
No, but I explained afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's a courtesy I appreciate.
Joke.
I'm using a little bit of blurring powder here, nothing fancy. Well, actually, it is pretty fancy. It's the Pat McGrath blurring powder that I've been using a lot. I really love this powder. I use it all the time. This is literally the second one that I have used since this is literally the replacement for the one that I bought in December. That's how frequently I use this stuff. I'm gonna just put some up there in my T-zone, kind of. I've got a fuzzy, and try to cover up the third eye that I had developed this week because my skin heard me say that I was doing these live streams and it decided to break out. Thanks, PCOS.
Michelle says, "How does that fare under the eyes?"
This stuff is great under the eyes. Like the okay, let me grab my. I should have a flat-ish brush, and if not, yeah, here it is. I like to use this Wayne Goss airbrush because it's flat, but it's great. And what I've been doing lately is I've been kind of stacking it. I mean, I'm not putting a ton on here, right? You don't really need to. And I like to use the, I've been using Go Kendo powder with it too. I've been trying to experiment with that. And I've actually found that it's kind of nifty to use instead of a highlighter because it's shiny, but it's not necessarily sparkly. Like there's a little bit of mica in it, a little bit. Don't mean to be like inadvertently flicking you off. So you can see there's a little bit of sparkle, but it's super, super subtle. So it's a lot softer than a highlighter. So like maybe I don't want to go with like a super duper highlight just because I have all this stuff on my eyes. And I really want that to be the focal point. But I find that this brightening powder is really great. And it plays well with the Pat McGrath. And when you get in light, here's another thing I can show you really quick. I hope you don't mind me kind of sharing this on the phone. But when I was doing tests with the camera yesterday, one thing I really noticed, and I don't use a filter. I don't use a filter. There might be a built-in one on the phone, but if there is, I don't have it enabled. What I found is this is with that brightening powder on. This is Monday because I used a little bit of Divine Rose 2 Pat McGrath to really put some pink like drama eyes on. And you see how that looks almost like I've got a filter or like a blurring tool applied under my eyes and like skin tone. What's that, right? That's literally this blurring powder. It's got a really reflective quality to it that when you get it in high intensity light really makes it look like you've got a filter applied. Because I mean, if you zoom in, you'll still see the mistakes, and I don't mind that. But yeah, I love it because in the images, it's a nice way to kind of cheat, which is great for catalog images, particularly if I don't want to bother hiring somebody to Photoshop them.
Michelle says, "Is that the Pat McGrath?" Yes,
the Pat McGrath powder combination with the Go Kendo. The Go Kendo is a My Fancy brightening moisture powder in brightening pink. And this is a South Korean brand, I believe. So they typically do kind of understated stuff. So I really think that if you use this more as like a highlighter than a powder, the effect is really pretty. I do have to put some blush on though, because I look really washed out. So what do I want to do? Where do we go now? Where do we go? I think I'm just gonna I'm so predictable. I've like over here on the table, I've got my Tarte weekend, Hampton's Weekender, and I might just put that on because I've hit pan or completely panned at least 2 of the 3 colors in here, so I should get on it here with the summer house so I can justify buying a replacement. I'm gonna have to buff that a little bit. Just a little bit of something so I don't look super washed out. And I'm not probably going to do a full-on contour because I'm already wearing a ton of makeup.
Oh, the one in this. What was the wig in the cell phone headshot you just showed?
Oh, good question. That was this one. Remembering. Nope, hold on. I got to look at a side shot because the Ainsley and the Grayson look very similar. It's Grayson. It's Grayson in Chocolate Frost.
There you go.
Or not Chocolate Frost, Chocolate Icing, which is basically a dupe for Chocolate Frost or something similar to that. There are a fair number of colors this could be a good doppelganger for. Another good one would basically be like the Amaretto Cream from Envy. Like, it's any one of those colors. It's basically like a medium brown that's got an ash blonde and like a caramel brown mixed in with it. Except for me, I tried to put a little bit more of the ash blonde in it than the caramel brown just because people seem to really like that. So it is slightly modified, but it is in essence a dupe for that. I figured since I did the little bit of Freudian slip, I might as well just like explain it. There we go. This is so fun. This is fun. I actually think I need a brighter blush color though than this. I still feel a little washed out. So I'm gonna grab some pink. I'm just trying to be careful because I don't want to go crazy with it because this is a lot of color already, but
Chilling with Chill says social skills is the most vaguest thing possible. I think I was trying to mean that if you feel free enough to say whatever you want.
Oh, if only we lived in that kind of society. But then the flip side of that is people would have to be able to hear and live in a world where people say whatever they want. And that's, I think, the harder selling point. I think most people could probably get on board with a society where they could say anything they want without consequences. But then, you know, how would we make the other side of that work out? That's a little bit trickier. I think as long as there are people, there's probably going to be a need for that particular balancing act. Unfortunately, let me grab some kind of lip thing.
Michelle says, do you find makeup looks heavy, then you put on a wig and it's like, oh wait, I need more blush?
Totally, every time. Like I have a bad habit or a good one, depending on your point of view. This is just some Buxom Balm. I use this all the time. It's plumping, no color. It's called, the color that it doesn't have is called the Big O, but it's just plumping and clear. I find that I tend to, you know, some people generally gravitate towards, you know, gentle, soft colors, and I tend to gravitate towards drag. Like, I love drag makeup. I'm so fascinated by drag people. Like, that's such an art, and the illusion of it is so cool. And I even like people like Trixie Mattel who caricature the way that the makeup is supposed to look. It's still pretty stinking rad. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, like, should I go with like a nude lip or should I go crazy? Like, I've got reds. I've got.
Well, you've got.
What are you guys thinking?
Rainbow
what are you
ears.
feeling? Let me put the hair on.
You've got rainbow earrings, rainbow eyes, rainbow hair.
I'm not doing
something bright.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm not doing rainbow lips. I don't have like those colors. I don't have blue lipstick. I'm pretty sure Marc Jacobs made a blue lipstick at one point. That looked really, really cool.
Yeah. No, something in the pinkish end of the spectrum, I thought.
There we go. There we go. And I think somebody was asking, chilling with chills asked, without trying to sound too generalizing, are you touched by social skills? I mean, I catch on, like I catch on to patterns, you know, and I use those patterns to make informed decisions about, you know, what's the appropriate response here. The same way that Watson answers Jeopardy questions, really. It's like beep, boop, beep, boop, boop. And then, you know, I'm like, must do this. But it's not a natural thing. It's something where I have to kind of observe for a little bit and then try to make that call, which in some social situations is darn near impossible. Like, it is really, really tricky, for example, when you're in charge of other people, to kind of like wait for them to show you what they need you to do, because you're just supposed to know as virtue of part of your position. And then like the balancing act gets even weirder for me sometimes, because it's like, okay, I have to be assertive and I have to be in charge, but I also have to be like nurturing and I have to listen to others. But then when I'm listening to them, they want me to give them stuff. And then it's like, it's hard sometimes, you know, and it's like, I don't know the proper thing to do in all situations. So sometimes I just wing it and pray and hope that, you know, everyone's happy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So
Michelle wanted to share an idea. Use a color eyeshadow and blend on the lips.
Oh!
Andrea says, I've done the eyeshadow on the lips. Love it.
All right, well, let's do that. We actually, if we're going to do something crazy, I actually have some beautiful, like, one could even argue, like, almost multi-chromatic lip balms. There are a couple in here that are just nuts.
Michelle says it must be really tough at times. I wish everyone was just very open and talk, and then they can understand social cues aren't always easy. They aren't always easy for just about everyone sometimes, Michelle, but I can imagine it would be so much harder that way. Oh.
No, it's rough, because I mean, it's hard for me to even like convince people sometimes. I'm like, just tell me what's wrong. Tell me what I screwed up. Tell me, you know, if I offend you, just tell me.
Yeah.
If you tell me, I won't take it personally. I might, you know, be hurt for a second because, you know, I'm mad at myself, but I won't be mad at that person for telling me that I stuck my foot in it. I just want to hear what I did wrong. And so that way I can try not to duplicate that again. So I've got like 3 different lip glosses that I kind of pulled, and I could turn any lip color into something kind of fun with these. And they're all, I bought them as like a sampler pack from Pat McGrath again. I like buying things in packs during the holidays when they're on sale. So I have the Naked Rose, I have Lavendering, which is this kind of one here. And I also have this one that's kind of like peachy, but they all have like a shift to them. Like this one shifts kind of like peachy gold. This one shifts kind of pink and gold. And this one shifts purple and silver. And maybe a little green. And I've also got, let's see what else I got. I also have this one, which is Smashbox, and this one's really beautiful. This one has a ton of different colors all throughout it. You can definitely see it's got a little bit of like green and in the flash there, and orange, and it's really pretty. And this one's called Hustle and Glow. But I could definitely like put on like a bright red and then layer some of that stuff over it.
Michelle says they look duochromatic.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on. And in fact, the Lavendering is really, really funky. It's actually, when it's on, here, I'll put a little bit on just to show you. It's definitely got like a lilac undertone to it. I love that. It's so cool. I actually wore that on Monday for the shoot outside. I actually like put pink on during the live stream, took it off and followed Kathleen's suggestion and put on kind of like a lavender color and then layered that on top of it. And it looked really, really nifty. But since I already did that look, I think I'm going to go red. I'm going to go with what Nigel said. I'm going to put on Taylor Swift's favorite color. This is Dragon Girl, and I think I read somewhere that this is her signature color, and this is a NARS product. We'll just run with that, and let me see if I've got a pencil that I can use for that. Oh, this might be an old one. Let me see if it's still got some juice to it. Oh yeah, we're good. Okay, so this is, sometimes these can dry out if they're a little old. This is the Color Sensational Shaping Lip Liner in 145 Berry Cherry. It's a Maybelline product.
Berry Cherry is also a flavor of Jelly Belly jelly bean.
It sounds delightful.
Oh, it is. Love me some Jelly Belly jelly beans. This is not a paid advertisement for Jelly Belly jelly beans, but if they want to send me some samples, yeah, I'm game for that. Just don't expect me to give your buttered popcorn flavor much of a rating because, ugh.
Didn't you? Are you a fan of the Birdie Bots?
The Bertie Bots, yeah, that was great. Oh, the Bertie Bots. See, way back before the movies came along, like right as they were just entering the first book was entering paperback, Mum got me a copy of the first Harry Potter book. So apparently it was British and it was selling well, and you didn't get that much in of British culture in the USA, especially Ohio. So we bought it. Mum bought it for me and got it and started reading it. And when the movies came out, they came out with these Bertie Bott's Every Flavor beans made by Jelly Belly. And one of my friends sent me a couple boxes of the Bertie Bott's, and I got them out and I separated them into their various flavors so I know how much of each I had, and left them downstairs while I was putting up a bookshelf upstairs. And as I was hammering away at this flat pack bookshelf, I heard an come from downstairs. My mother had decided.
What was that sound again?
Mum thought it would be a good idea to sneak one of my pretty jelly beans while I wasn't looking, and she picked the lovely silvery one, which was sardine flavored.
Oh, why would someone even make that?
Well, the one that I didn't get, there are a lot of flavors I don't get, but
like you were complaining proactively about the buttered popcorn. I would have went right for the sardine flavor.
Well, no, I like sardine flavor, and if you know it's going to be a sardine flavored jelly bean, it tastes exactly like a sardine. So they did a damn good job there. But you know, when they do like earwax and yeah, there's an earwax flavored one. Yeah, they did all kinds of they did weird flavors that were good and weird flavors that were terrible. I liked the grass, the dirt, the sardine, and the black pepper. I hated the earthworm, the earwax, the booger, and the vomit. Yes, those were actually jelly beans they made.
Like, we had Garbage Pail Kids, and people thought that that was scandalous. And they're eating candy that's flavored like sardines and vomit.
Oh, hi, JD. Sorry, I just noticed. Just noticed you while I was doing that extensive tirade. Welcome aboard. Glad you could make it, and
yes.
Thank you for your kind words.
Sorry you had to come in while we were talking about vomit-flavored jelly beans.
No, actually, the sardine ones weren't bad, but it certainly taught my mother never to sneak my sweets without asking me first.
And I can imagine what that was like too. I can almost hear it playing out because I know you both so well at this point.
And you know what's funny? When they came out with those Bean Boozled ones where you get two different flavors done in the same color, and you had to guess what, and you have to sort of play Russian roulette with it. Are you getting a good flavor or a bad flavor? They had two black flavored jelly beans. One is licorice and one is skunk spray. And I actually found myself preferring the skunk spray to licorice.
See, I wouldn't buy those. So I mean, you're a very adventurous person. That's what I'm getting from the story, Nigel. You're a culinary adventurer.
Oh yeah, I'll give almost anything a try. Almost. There are a few things I wouldn't. But
I was laughing and I colored outside the line, so I'm cleaning this up a little bit.
Michelle said she would prefer skunk spray. Well, Michelle, that's the thing. You live in Scotland. Have you ever smelled skunk spray?
But they're so cute, though.
They're adorable, but you can smell them from a mile away. And if they've been hit by a car, you can smell them from 5 miles away. This is truth. And it's one of those things you have to smell to believe.
They're cute, though.
Oh, they're adorable.
They waddle when
they're
they walk.
They're little chubby striped weasels.
They're adorable.
They're friggin' adorable. And the babies are ridiculously
and their
cute.
tails are super floofy.
Gregory the skunk.
Gregory has some aggression issues.
Yeah. We're referring to, I mentioned MST3K earlier. The 3 main guys at the end of MST3K, Mike, Kevin, and Bill, ended up doing a thing called riff tracks where they do the same thing. They do a commentary track over a movie. They got hold of a little educational film called Little Lost Scent about this baby skunk that gets separated from his family and then rampages across the American countryside, taking on all comers and making them flee before his anger.
But he's so cute. He's got a little tiny goofy tail.
He's smaller than a kitten and fluffy and so very, very angry with everyone and everything.
He's got moxie, that one.
He's got moxie. Andrea says, we have turkey farms down the road. That's a bad smell once a week for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah, my mom lives down the street from some chicken farmers.
Oh, Michelle says, Nigel, was I born in England? Yes, Torquay, home of Faulty Towers. Do you guys get Revels chocolate over there? I think we might be able to find them in the specialty sections in supermarkets, but I haven't got them. And oh, I love Revels. I love every single flavor of Revels. They're way more tame, but just a mismatch of sweeties. Everyone is a wee surprise. Yes, I friggin' love Revels. Oh, there's not a thing. Everyone says, oh, I don't like the coffee ones. Oh, I don't like the orange ones. How can you not like coffee-flavored chocolate or orange-flavored chocolate? What kind of monster are you not to like chocolate full stop? Okay, rant over. Sorry.
I think the moral of that story is if you don't like those things, send them to Nigel.
Oh, Basil is your new name. Michelle, I worked in customer service in Torquay, and every last one of us who work in customer service in Torquay has Basil Fawlty as our spirit animal. I swear, the times we want to break into a Basil Fawlty style rant is just overwhelming.
But didn't John Cleese say that he wrote that character based on a bad customer service experience he had when he went to Torquay?
Oh yeah, the Glen Eagles Hotel, which fell into disrepair. This is a great story. The Glen Eagles Hotel, which John Cleese based Faulty Towers in, fell into disrepair and was demolished. I think 2014. But they ended up. Are you making a choice?
I think I'm going to go with this one because I think it's going to be flashier on top.
Yeah.
This one in the middle, this peachy one.
But in the place of the demolished hotel, they put up an assisted living center for senior citizens, and they named it after Andrew Sachs, the guy who played Manuel in Faulty Towers. Oh, JD says the toothpaste one is actually good.
Why didn't you mention that flavor, Nigel? That actually sounds edible.
Well, see, the thing is, they do multiple levels of being boozled all the time. So, you know, the first one I had, I haven't tasted the toothpaste one. I've tasted mint Jelly Bellies, but I haven't tasted the toothpaste one. And, like, they replaced earthworm with centipede flavored. And as far as I could tell,
who is eating these things to know what they're supposed to taste like?
I think they put them in a gas spectrometer and just do the volatile compounds. Try to match up the volatile compounds. But to say the truth, centipede tasted a lot like earthworm.
And you still ate it
in terms of jelly. But well, I wanted to see what it would taste like.
Culinary adventurer.
Michelle says it's probably cheaper eating toothpaste. Yeah, actually.
All right, I think that's more or less the look that I've come up with. I may splash a little bit more blush. Let's see if there's enough residual on here. Hey.
I think Nigel is one of those people who have a sensitive palate. I love trying things too, but I don't do gross. Well, it all depends. I'll try nearly anything once, and if I know it's safe, like I won't eat an actual earthworm, but if I'll try an earthworm flavored Jelly Belly, and I must say they do taste exactly like the smell you got when dissecting earthworms in biology class. So it's accurate.
Like I have a friend in Ohio who is out that he's an Aspie, and he considers himself kind of like a super taster. So he tastes food really, really in a really sensitive fashion. I'm not quite the same. I mean, I'm a little bit sensitive, but for me, scent and sound are really the things that I'm very sensitive to. Like I can get overwhelmed by scents really easily. So when people write in saying that they don't like scented stuff because of reasons, I usually understand where they're coming from.
Chilling with Chill says, what if I pretended to be shy and awkward? These normal people will never know.
Hey, I'm sure that there are people who actually do that. You know, and I remember when I was younger and I was in high school, it seemed like a lot of girls were doing that shtick where they would pretend like, oh, I don't have any idea what's going on. I'd be like, girl, you were just making fun of these people when they like 2 seconds ago for how silly this is. And you know, for all kinds of things. Like I would always wonder why people would pretend to be dumber than they were. But I guess it's like, you know, them playing close to the vest or something. But yeah, this is the look.
Liz says that rainbow eye effect is stunning.
Thank you, Liz. It took forever.
And Danielle says, oh my gosh, I just love you two. You two are seriously meant for each other.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought that when I proposed.
Yeah, he wouldn't let me go. Like he moved away. We kept talking.
Yeah.
I would date people. He would still like contact me and be like, we should hang out.
Yes.
And then, yeah, now we're married. So I guess he won.
Persistence pays off.
But yeah, I think it goes really, really well with this Ambrose. I'm super happy about this. I'm going to have to take some pictures after this. So yeah, that's about it. Maybe some setting spray. I might spray it when I take the wig off, though, because I don't want to get setting spray all over my hair.
Michelle says, I think you should just be able to be yourself and totally embrace who you are. People who don't understand or want to accept you, they're lost.
Thank you. I mean,
quite.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, when you're out here in the public eye, people make a lot of opinions about a lot of things. And, you know, I figured that's just part of the territory, but it does kind of feel like it's below the belt sometimes when people make fun of the way I talk or when they make fun of certain things that are kind of out of my control. So I've just kind of come to the conclusion of screw it, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna be so scared of people judging me that I don't put myself out there. Because
you're you, and they're just horrible, small-minded people.
Same. Like, well, I'm not gonna go that far. Like, I
would.
That's the thing. Like, I don't want to like fight judgment with judgment all the time, you know? Like, I feel like that's just kind of a vicious cycle after a while, but I'm just like, whatever. Those people have things going on that they got to work that self out. That's not between me and them. That's between them and themselves and, you know, whatever. But like with most dysfunctional relationships like that, it's best not to get involved, you know? Like, I just try to stay away once I spot it. But, where are my things? I have a random cap that I have no idea what this goes to.
Spray of some sort?
It's probably something of that nature. I'll figure it out while we're cleaning up. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I know this has been a long one. This has been a marathon of live streaming. Oh gosh. Thank you, Natalie. That's so incredibly kind of you. Thank you. And thank you everybody for hanging out. Really, it means a lot. Thank you for letting me talk about this and not being, you know, uptight about it, because that also helps too. Because I mean, I have to talk about how I struggle with the social norms to make it make sense why it's an impairment to not pick up on some of this stuff in real time. And you know, it's a hard thing to explain, but when you see it in person, you're like, oh, I get what she's talking about. But my hope is that if you ever do meet me in person, you now know that if I'm awkward, I'm not doing it for effect. I'm not doing it to be quirky, and I'm not doing it to you know, I'm not really doing it purposefully at all. If anything, the awkwardness is the natural part, and the normalcy is my attempt to try to keep it to a minimum. So thank you for hanging out with us. Nigel, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks. This has been an absolute hoot. I feel it's been it's been a great deal of fun and slightly educational. And yeah, we've had fun. We've understood each other. We've had a great fun chatting. I know I've had a lot of fun ranting on occasion.
I've enjoyed your rants.
Thank you, my treasure.
Yes. So, bye, everybody. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow. We're going to be doing a no makeup look, so it's going to be a lot less than all of this. But I hope this is fun. I hope you feel inspired to try your own rainbow mashup. And who knows, maybe someday I'll come out with a makeup palette where you won't have to mix 30 billion shades to make this look. But for now, it is what it is. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you again.